Invest for cash flow. Invest for cash flow. Yes. Okay. Amazing. Okay. Yes. Yes. People are joining. We're getting started. We're getting started. Invest for cash flow. Yes. We're welcoming everybody in here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this chilly day. Danielle Shay's on. Danielle, how's it going?
Whoop, whoop. Hey, hey.
Good stuff. We have Tish in the house. Tish in the house. What's going on, Tish? We see Nikki. Hello, Nikki. Thanks for joining us. RCF. Yeah, yeah. Right now it's intro. So if you want to unmute yourself and say hi, that's fine. Or you could write in the text box there. Invest for cash flow session. We have a great session that's coming up today. Amazing speakers, very, very knowledgeable. You really don't know where you are after today's session. Then you realize, like, oh, wow, okay, I'm glad I tuned into that, right? Because honestly, it's just here's one little piece of information away from reaching that next milestone of yours, right? And, that's why we just want to have a platform where we can bring people together and for us to share each other's knowledge and for us to go and implement it. So we'll give it a few minutes that more people sign in. People are signing in right now, so we'll give people some time. We just sent out a little email as well. We have another one of our speakers is here as well, Michael Sukuro. Michael, how are you?
How's it going?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for joining us here. We
No problem.
we have okay, Maxine. Hello, Maxine. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we have more people that are coming in, so we're just giving some time for some people to join us. Um, and then yeah, we're gonna get going with this. I'm gonna get our guest speakers as co-hosts in this session as well. Right. So the investor cash flow, this whole series, it was made to pretty much have a platform online, for everyone to come pretty much congregate, come together, for people to build their social presence, and as well as for people to get information and use it to their advantage. Right now in this era that we're in, all this new technology is coming into our hands, and there's so much coming on, so it's hard to keep up with everything, but it's so important at the same time, just to keep up to date with everything. I remember before I was a CD guy, I had my CD compact disc, and I collected CDs. I had those big cases full of CDs, and I just pop into the CD player. And then I remember getting a next vehicle, and it didn't even have a CD player in it. I was like, okay, so all these CD players are useless. So my kids now use them as frisbees. That's what they know them as. They didn't even know they play music on them. They just use them as frisbees. So same thing what's going on right now with technology. Technology, we are online, and this is a next platform. This is a digital stage in a sense, right? And people would love going to networking events, love going to conferences, right? This is just another platform, for people to go out and get information on, right? And obviously it's new, so it takes some time for people to actually take it as serious, like as in opposed to in person. Of course, everyone shows up, and we definitely want to get to in-person sessions as well. But right now, I'm very keen on building this social platform because there's not really that many social platforms that are even out there, right? So I'm gonna get into it, with this session for investor cash flow. But first and foremost, I like to introduce the map book, which is a program that I put together, about 4 years. Sorry, it got released about 5 years ago, right? And I actually been practicing these principles for over 10 years. And a lot of you I'm sure, are practicing the same principles. These are universal law and principles that are just now put in a framework where it's more centered. So the information is out there in all the books. If you read all the books in terms of subconscious mind, and growing who you are, and goal setting and accountability is one of the main things with this program, right? And the map book, what it is, it's a 365-day program, right? And it was made for you to just pretty much whatever you say that you want to do, whatever your intentions are, it's a place for you to put them. your intentions out there. We put them project them into the world, but we have a place now, the map book, where we can actually just go out and, implement everything that we say we're going to do and we actually do it. For example, I have my map book here with me right here, right? And, I have it every day. Every day I have a critical 7, and it's like 7 things that you're going to do each day that are critical, right? So it really makes you concentrate and put attention to your time, and what it is that you want to do. The map book was not made for any one person. The map book was created for it to be a tool to awaken all people in this world to their full potential, right? Everyone has something that they want to do, and, many times, and this was me a lot before the map book, where, I'll go and I'll do things for the day, but at the same time, I'm like, what did I get done today? Like, I wasn't really certain as what I got done for the day, right? And if you ever feel like that, that's what the map book is here for. The map book is it's that tool that's what you did for the day, right? And you're gonna score yourself each day out of 7, what you call the critical 7, right? So the map book needs to be put in the hands as many people as possible in order to serve its true purpose, right? The goal is for the map book to assist over 1 billion people to create wealth. So whether that's directly from the map book alone or through everything that is expanding from it, such as this session, such as, the other things that we have going on with the program. But we just want to get that information out there, and applying these principles, for everyone to be at least in tune with them and aware of them, right? So this is why it's so important for us to read the map book, because when reading your map book, you're impressing what you have written in your book into your subconscious mind. And as a result, your body is moving towards everything that you have written down for yourself, your true inner desires, and you remain on purpose, right? So if you're familiar with as like reading at night, because when you're sleeping, you're in your subconscious state, right? So with the map book, you read it 2 times a day. We read it at the beginning of the day, and it takes 5 minutes, by the way, but we read it at the beginning of the day, right? And we read it at the end of the day before we go to sleep, before we sign out, and that's important because you want the final thoughts of your day to be in alignment with your projected future, right? So, as you go, you read your map book, you go in your subconscious state, you're sleeping, and all throughout the night, it's actually everything's forming, for you, right? And this is not stuff that I'm making up. This is stuff that I'm sure many of you are resonating with, right? It's just that the map book is a tool for you to apply that. Brian Tracy, he said that two times of the day are ideal for writing and rewriting your goals, and for reading and reviewing your index cards. These are the last thing in the evening before you go to bed, and the first thing in the morning before you leave to work, right? When you rewrite and review your goals in the evening, you program them into your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then has the opportunity to work on your goals all night long while you are sleeping. You will often arise with the wonderful ideas for things to do or people to call to help you achieve your goals, right? So that's in alignment with our program. So be disciplined yourself to stay plugged in. You read your map book 2 times a day, once early at night, once each time you read it, you're going to post in our WhatsApp group. We have our WhatsApp group community that's posted in their map book as they're using their map book read. It's just 3 words that you're posting in their group. At the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, you're going to post map book read plus your score out of 7 for the day, what your critical 7 was, right? It may seem tedious to do now, but it's all worth it once you see the response and rewards of maintaining this discipline, right? So these are the 5 commitments with the program, right? It's really a simplistic program, but it's very powerful, right? Your map book should be integrated into your daily essentials. So just like your phone, your keys, your wallet, your purse, that you have them with you all the time, just like your map book, you should have it with you all the time. Read it 2 times a day, in the morning and at night. 3, post in our WhatsApp group, map book read every time you read your map book, right? And then each section. So the map book, it starts with the affirmatory declaration, which is the big picture, your vision, your goal, what's the big picture? And then it goes to the year, and then it goes to the month, and then it goes to the week, and then it goes to your day, which is your critical 7 for the day, right? And in the month, we have something called Focus 11. Focus 11 is focusing on 11 aspects of your life, so that you're well-rounded and, in all parts of your life. So this program, it's right now, I'm grateful our community is building. We have people that are enrolling in the program, but now we're really taking it online, and we don't want to be local no more. We don't want to be just Brampton based, or we want to be worldwide, with this program. And yeah, so we have a 30-day accountability program. So it's 30 days. So your map book read those three words, you have to plug that in our accountability group. So if you're not plugged into the program, you have a grace period of 30 days, right? The program's for a year. It's programs for a year, but you have 30-day grace period. If you're not plugged in, then we just remove you from our group, the accountability group. So it's about just staying intentional, every day, staying intentional of what you want to do, right? Buy a book, right? The map book was purposely made to be a physical book. It's not an app on your phone for a reason. The map book needs your concentration and your focused attention for it to be effective. If you are switching back and forth throughout different apps using a program, your energy will be scattered and the principles within this book won't work as efficient. Think about, when you open the windows on your computer, you have so many windows on, right? The speed and the processor of it kind of slows down, right? So, with our minds, it's similar. Obviously, our minds are supercomputer, but when you have too many things, you're not transferring them, from the spiritual into the physical, then you're letting your spiritual just replenish of new ideas and new thoughts, right? So by using the book separate, it allows you to put all your energy and focus yourself for the time being, right? This practice is so powerful. Outside of in this outside world, this physical world, every time they're trying to take our attention, right? They want to take our attention for everything. So if you're watching TV, they took your time for that. Anyone that's not tuned in right now to get this information, maybe they're on Netflix and chilling, right? But the thing is, when that's taking your attention. That's taking your attention, right? It's not feeding your mind, right? And hey, by all means, it's great, every so often, but not when you're binging on series throughout the entire day. Because if you really think about it in the physical sense, if you were sitting and binging through the whole day, that means you haven't moved your body for the whole day, except for maybe when you had to go to the washroom or you're on Tuesday. That's the only type of movement that you're getting, right? So the map book allows you to plug out of that world, and you're plugging into yourself. So you're going internal. It's a form of meditation. You get your time for yourself. You get to think clearly. You get your ideas, and you transfer it into your map book, right? So the whole thing with this program is a paradigm shift, right? And platforms like this allow us to actually connect with like-minded people, right? Because that's what we want to be connected with like-minded people who are on the same frequency, as we make this paradigm shift. Right? So the MapBook program, this program is available. We have our reps that are reaching out to anyone who's interested. In our emails, you'll see it in the emails. Talk about the MapBook. If you're interested, we have a 45-minute mind map session, right, where we'll get on a Zoom call with you and kind of like see what your visions are, see what your goals are, and then give you more insight on the map book, and then see if you feel it's possibly something that you would like to integrate into what it is that you're doing, right? But yeah, that's the map book program. Thank you for allowing me to introduce this session with that. Right now, let's get into it. The session of invest for cash flow, right? And invest for cash flow. Many people here are entrepreneurs, business owners, and investors, real estate professionals. We have amazing speakers, as I mentioned, right? And the beautiful thing with the speakers is, when I reach out, right away they say, "Yeah, I'm on board," right? Like, this is what we need. We need more service-oriented people. We need people who are out there to serve, and just want to go and provide value into this world, right? And of course, we need the people who are in attendance in here as well, because that exchange needs to happen, right? As they're giving the value, we need that exchange to happen for people to retain it, and that's really how the whole flow of this world works. So we're gonna get started with our first speaker, Tish. Tish, how's it going? Just please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are.
Hello. How's everyone doing tonight? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So I'm going to share my slides. Let's see if I can. I think you made me presenter, so I should be able to just pop them up, which is great. Okay, so can everyone see my slides? Drop a yes in the chat if you could see my slides. Awesome. Okay, so let's start with invest smarter real estate opportunities beyond the GTA. Before we get started, I do want to make sure that I have your undivided attention. So if you have any distractions like cell phone, or if you have, the kids running around, try to just keep things as, focused as possible on this presentation, because I promise it will be a ton of value. And I do want questions to be left until the end. I am going to leave some time for us to go through any questions that anyone has. But I put a ton of information in this presentation. I don't want us to kind of have too much questions throughout it, just so that you guys can get the most out of it. Okay, so let's get started. So first, who am I? So I am Tish Schoberg. I am an award-winning real estate agent based in Ontario, Canada. I'm a real estate investor, as well as a mom of two lovely little girls. I'm also the founder and owner of BTS Homes and Sold by Tish. In addition, I am a VIP Platinum Access Realtor with exclusive pre-public access to top pre-construction projects, off-market coming soon, and MLS listings. Today's agenda is quite full. I wanted to provide you guys with a lot of value, so it's quite full, and I will try to get through everything, and I think we can. I've timed myself. So we're going to talk a bit about the current state of the real estate market. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with too much numbers. I'm going to talk about why everyone should be investing in real estate, how to invest in real estate, some home buying programs, unique investment opportunities. We're going to go through a case study so you can really apply this knowledge and understand how it works in the real life. And then we're going to go through the next steps. Okay. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can invest in the real estate market to make an extra $100,000. If that sounds good, drop a yes in the chat. Okay, I want to see those yeses coming in, guys and girls. Awesome. Let's go. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about the disclaimer. Okay, so I keep it very real, guys. I keep it very, very real. And I unfortunately cannot guarantee that you'll be able to make money from investing in real estate. Nobody can guarantee that, right? Like everything in life, there are risks, but depending on where you invest, how you invest, that all is a factor on your success in investing in real estate. And the truth is that most people want to invest in real estate, but few do take action to do the things that are necessary to successfully invest in real estate. So this presentation will go over the advantages of investing in real estate, but please be aware that this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about the current state of the real estate market. And again, I'm not going to bore you with the numbers, but the real estate market in Ontario has taken quite the shift. It is beginning to normalize after being overheated in early 2021 to early 2022. The Bank of Canada has started to lower their key interest rate since the inflation rate has lowered into their target range of 2%. As of September, it has actually gone down even further to 1.6%, which is great. And most areas across Ontario are experiencing either a balanced market or a buyer's market, which is great for buyers. And there is an increase in housing supply. I'm sure you've seen the extra house, for sale signs that are going up and houses that are going up for sale in your area. However, in general, Ontario does still have a low housing inventory issue. Okay. And home buyers are taking advantage of this market to buy real estate with favorable terms and lower pricing because of it. Okay. why everyone should invest in real estate. So it is truly one of the safest ways to build wealth. So one of the other advantages is that you can build equity. And so to those that don't know, equity is your home value subtracted from what you owe. Okay, so another way to explain it is if you buy a home 10 years ago for $500,000 and today it's worth $1 million, you've acquired $500,000 in equity. Okay, you've actually acquired more than $500,000 because you have the $500,000 plus whatever you've paid down in principal. Does that make sense? Drop the yes in the chat if that makes sense, guys. Okay, awesome. Another thing is that real estate provides a passive income source. So passive income means that you're doing very little to actually make money. It's not like active income, where active income is where you're trading time for dollars, right? So showing up to your job, if you're working construction or at a mid job, you're going to your boss, or you're there physically exchanging your time for hours, whereas passive income is very passive. You could be on an island sipping martinis and still getting that rental income coming in from your investment properties, still seeing that price appreciation year over year passively because of the market increasing in value. Home ownership is the primary method of accumulating wealth in Canada. Nearly half of the household wealth amassed over the past 3 decades has been driven by residential real estate. And then I'm going to drop some interesting news, okay? So 68% of Canadian households actually cannot afford to purchase a home based on earned income alone. And because of this, investing in real estate is crucial, not only for yourself, but for your children and their future. Okay, so the barrier to entry into real estate is very tight. Okay. So let's talk about some of the stats. So the average homeowner in Ontario made over $200,000 in equity in the last 5 years. Okay, so we look at 2019, we see prices in that 600,000 range, and then prices started to go up steadily, then go up significantly. And then we had lovely, overheated market, as I said, between early 2021 to early 2022. And then prices went down, and then the market has just been starting to normalize, right? So prices at this point is around that 850,000 mark within Ontario. So guys, that's an average 200,000 plus increase in prices in Ontario in just the last 5 years. Then following that, we have this graph that shows a soaring home equity accounts for the majority of boosts to net worth within Canada. So as you can see, since 2005, the amount of wealth that the average person has acquired has mainly been built from owning property and land, right? And if you notice, there's actually a similar trend in growth that mimics the previous graph, right? So do you see that kind of steady growth? Then it gets sharp here. So it's the same type of growth that we're seeing with the net worth of homeowners and the boost in equity that they've acquired over the last couple of years. And then for renters, another interesting stat is that Canadian homeowners actually have a net worth that's 4 times higher than renters. 4 times higher, right? And a lot of that is because of the equity and a price growth that they've seen within their properties that have allowed them to acquire the wealth that is 4 times higher than the average renter. Okay, and so this is kind of showing why real estate investing is so important and truly crucial. Okay, so how to invest in real estate. So I'm going to be talking really at a high level, very bird's eye view here when it comes to the method in investing. But one thing I do want to touch on is the very first thing about investing in real estate that most realtors will probably not even talk to you about is having the right mindset, being motivated, and being disciplined to see this through. Because a lot of people say they want to invest in real estate. They sometimes begin the process of reaching out to a realtor, but it's very seldom that people actually carry out the process. They get frustrated with doing the pre-approval documentation, or they change their mind, or they decide to go on vacation. So we have a lot of distractions in life. And so it's really important that if this is something that you truly want to do for you and your children's future, that you buckle down, you stay motivated, and you have the discipline to see this through. Okay. Following that, you book your home buyer strategy call with a real estate agent. So if you were invited to this webinar from a realtor, reach out to your realtor, book your strategy call so that you can begin the process of understanding how you can invest in real estate and the options that are available to you. And if you aren't working with a realtor, feel free to reach out to me and my team. We'd love to help. Following your buyer strategy call, where we come up with a plan for you to ensure that you're successful, we then go house shopping, the fun part. From that, we put in an offer on an investment property, you provide your deposit, you carry out the necessary conditions of financing, inspection, or potentially a condition of your home selling before we firm up. You close, you pick up your keys, and then we work on finding a tenant to help you cover your carrying costs for the property. So carrying costs are typically your mortgage costs, your property tax, and your water heater rental. Okay. And programs that are available for first-time home buyers, there are some programs that are available for you to leverage. There is the RSP loan, which I am going to expand on just because I have so many people who ask questions about this program and how it works. And you also have the land transfer tax rebate, you have the first home savings account, and more. But again, I do want to touch on this RSP loan program. I know that there's so many people who are aware of the ability to withdraw from your RSP, but they are not aware of the ability to actually take out a loan to be able to do that, right? And so this is what I call a short-term borrowing strategy. It isn't for everyone. But the way it works is that you borrow money to make an RSP contribution. So you can borrow up to $50,000 depending on the institution that you're borrowing the funds from. You withdraw up to $60,000 from your RSP to put toward your down payment, and that's per person. So if you're a couple, you can actually withdraw up to $120,000, and that did increase this year. So it used to be $35,000, and they've increased it up to $60,000 per person. You can then claim a deduction on your tax return, and then that could help with getting a tax refund or lowering your taxes. You'll have your principal and interest payments that you would have to make toward your RSP loan. If you do receive a tax refund, you can use the refund to pay off your loan faster while your RSP investment continues to grow. Okay, and it's ideal that you try to pay this off within a year or two. You don't want to continue paying off, because you're going to be paying interest over the term of the loan. And this is why this is more of a short-term strategy. Okay, but you can use that tax refund to help pay down the loan. Okay. And then another good thing about this program is you can actually defer your first loan payment by 90 days. So a lot of positives with this program. Again, I find a lot of people are not aware of this ability to take out this loan to then, contribute to your RSP, so then you could withdraw it for your down payment. It seems to be missed amongst the first-time home buying incentives. So I really wanted to touch on that and expand on that program. So let's talk about unique opportunities. So homeowners can use their equity in their property through refinancing or taking out a line of credit or HELOC. So there's a ton of homeowners that have a lot of equity. We've seen in the graph, they've had some great price appreciation. The average Ontario homeowner has made over $200,000 in equity in the last 5 years. We've seen that in the graphs. So, there's ways for you to leverage your current home's equity to refinance or take out a line of credit so that you can reinvest in real estate. Okay, and a lot of people aren't leveraging that. You could also look at buying a home with a group, such as, family members or close friends. And your first home does not have to be your dream property. I think a lot of people get tied up in the fact that, I want to buy a home. That's my dream property. It needs to be a 3,000 square foot home in Toronto. Trust me, I want that too. we all want to live in Toronto. I'm from Toronto, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. Born and raised. So I think we all want that, amazing luxury mansion in Toronto, so we can go downtown and, love and live that amazing dream life. But the reality is that most people need to first buy that property outside of the GTA, or buy as a group with family members, to just be able to enter the market to begin with. Okay. Following that, you can consider purchasing pre-construction, which provides smaller deposits. So you don't have to come up with so much down payment right out the gate. You can pay down toward your down payment as small deposits to a builder over the course of a few months or a few years, depending on the project. And there is builders that have projects with longer closings. You can also live in one area of the home and rent out the other. Okay, that's a strategy that a lot of people are not leveraging. It doesn't mean that you are renting out different rooms within your home, but you can rent out your basement and live on the top main floor and second floor of the home, right? There are those living arrangements that people are doing and building really good wealth and equity. And that tenant in your basement is helping to pay down your carrying costs, like your mortgage and other bills. And then, of course, buying the home outside of the Greater Toronto Area, as I mentioned before, has a lot of benefits. Homes are more affordable. There's less competition. You have more potential for cash flow because the cost is lower for the home, and the rental markets in these areas are usually very strong. So you're still getting that good rental income, and you tend to have more serious renters. And so what that means is, because there's not this ample supply of rental opportunity like there is in the GTA, your renters are much more keen on abiding by your rules and staying in that property with you, and being more serious about renting your home and taking care of it, because they know that there's not as much supply as there would be if they were to rent in the GTA. Okay. So let's talk about this case study. So this is a case study of a home in Niagara. So purchase price of $600,000, the monthly mortgage based on a rate of 4.29, 25-year amortization, you're looking at $3,184. So additional carrying costs would be your property tax and your monthly water heater rental bill. And that would work out to about $200 to $400 per month, just depending on the property tax. And then the rental income could be anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000, right? So in areas like Niagara that support Airbnb rentals, you have the ability to make more money, right? So you have more than the average long-term rental income, which would probably hover anywhere between that $4,000 range. But with Airbnb in the short-term rental market, you can make a lot more income, right? Which results in monthly positive cash flow. Okay. And then with that is the ability to book your home buyer strategy call with me, guys. So you can reach out to me by texting the word invest if you'd like to book a strategy call with me. You could also scan the QR code and it will route you directly into my calendar where you can book your call with myself and my team. And we'll open the floor up to questions. I'm just going to look in the chat to see if we have any questions. I don't see any questions.
That was really informative. I want you to go a bit deeper into the RSP loan, because I know that's something where people is something new that people are hearing about. And like you said, it's not for everyone. It's a high risk, but have you had clients doing it? Are there any hiccups that they're facing, and who's it going through for smoothly? Like, if you don't mind, expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pretty much all the major banks allow that RSP loan to be taken out. There is a process of applying. It usually takes a week or two, depending on the institution. There is a profile that you need to be able to qualify for that, right? So it's very similar to your typical mortgage. So they're looking for a certain credit score, usually in that 620, 640 range. They're looking for the income, because the bank wants to have that reassurance that you can actually pay that RSP loan back, right? Pretty much like any other loan that you take out, right? So they want that reassurance. There is certain criteria that you need in order to qualify for that RSP loan and contribution. However, you want to make sure that you're applying for that RSP loan with ample time before you actually commit to buying a home. So I don't want to hear that you guys are buying a home and then looking to do this, right? So this is a part of the strategy call and actually coming up with a plan for you to see if this is suitable for you. It isn't for everybody because there are certain people who may already have enough money for your down payment, right? And especially with the mortgage rules changing as of December 15th, it is going to become easier for you to be able to buy a home. The down payment requirements are lowering. So again, this program is not for everybody, but it can be a really great short-term solution for people who are looking to leverage this opportunity for the 1 to 2 year mark, just until they are able to get back some funds, either through their tax return or through some other source, through working or what have you, to be able to pay this back within the 1 to 2 year term. And people are leveraging this. People are leveraging this even for pre-construction, right? So that's another avenue that you can use. You can take this loan out, put it toward a pre-construction purchase, and then by the time it's closed, if there's enough equity and price appreciation, you can use that to help pay down this loan, right? So there's various different ways that this can be used, and it seems to be kind of a new program that people are now finding out about. But this has actually been around for quite some time. I just think that there hasn't been enough awareness about it. I think there's just been a lot of focus on this RSP withdrawal, but just not enough focus on the fact that you can take out a loan to contribute to then withdraw. So happy to bring awareness to this program. And for any other questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, amazing. Nikki asked, what interest rate do you have to pay it back at?
That's a really good question. It really depends on the institution. So, you'd have to speak with your bank and see what they're offering. You may want to shop around to see what other banks are offering, to see, what would be the best rate for you, right? And the lowest rate.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Tish. Really informative. And yeah, anyone that if they get in contact with her, book that strategy call, right? And get more insight. That's why we're on here, for us to be of service. So if what Tish said stood out to you, and you're interested, make sure that you reach out to her. Tish, thank you so much for speaking at this event. It was amazing, and stick around because we're gonna have that session where we're gonna go into how's the real estate market. So stick around. And there's other professionals and realtors and stuff in here as well. So we all want to pretty much be on that discussion. So thank you so much, Tish. You're amazing.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Give it up. We got some virtual hands over there. Virtual hand clapping. We got that over there. So that's amazing. All right, cool. So next we have our next speaker. Tish, I think you're still sharing your screen, if you don't mind, on sharing that real quick, so we can get to our next speaker, which is Michael Sukuro. And Michael, if you were on the Instagram live with him, he was going deep into certain things with financing and of course Tish came with the real estate insight, giving you guys some real estate insight, and just talking about the RSP loans and talk about the interest rates, and so it's nice segue right into the lender. So Michael Sukuro, Michael, please, the floor is yours. Thank you and welcome to the Invest for Cashflow session.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Tish, that was amazing. It actually segued perfect into what I'm about to talk about with the market update, more so on the mortgage side. It's sort of like Richard knew how to line us all up. And let me share my screen here, and I'll get right into it. All right. So does everybody see my screen okay? Let's get a thumbs up. Perfect. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, a little bit about me before I get into this, and let me watch the clock here. And I'm going to do a Q&A at the end, everyone. So I'll do like 5 minutes towards the end. So any questions you guys have, because I'll throw a lot of information at you, save it for the end, and we'll do a quick Q&A. But yeah, before I get into it, my name is Michael Sakuro, and I'm the president and co-founder of Spark Financial Group. We're a boutique finance firm. We started off in the mortgage space, and we've expanded now through general insurance, life insurance, private lending, and investing as well. So we've created that one-stop shop for all of our clients to take them through the whole financial cycle, whether they're purchasing a property, refinancing a property, insuring a property, any commercial insurance, fleets, businesses, whatever they may have, life insurance, help them with tax planning and estate planning through various products, and then investing through any registered funds, corporate tax treatment, or just any non-registered investments, especially like the RSPs, and helping them with RSP loans as well. Tonight, I'm going to put that all aside. I'm going to be going through more so mortgage market update, what I'm seeing happening in the market, what we have, sort of predicted for the future, what's going to come, some key features you should look out for when purchasing a property, and what indicators you should look out for in the market. And then just an investment tool that I've been using. I talked a bit about it on the live the other night. I'm going to go over briefly at the end. So to get right into it, the first thing I want to talk about here is the market outlook and what's to come. Now, the first key indicator is starting in 2025, we have $1.4 trillion in mortgage renewals that are coming up starting in 2025. And that's huge because, that's 48% of the current mortgages out there across Canada. And as an investor, or even someone looking to purchase for the first time, it may be a great time to purchase. A lot of people are scared of these renewals that are coming up, given that the projection, as you see on the right side there, mortgage repayments are projected to increase by 3 to 4 times the amount. And a lot of people may say, well, how's that possible? How's it going to increase 3 to 4 times? Well, if you look back to 2020 and 2021, where rates were virtually free, people were borrowing money for absolutely nothing. They were getting to mortgages at 1.1, 1.2%. On the variable side, we're looking at 1.6 to 1.8. Even for one of my rental properties, I got in at 1.4. Now you fast forward 5 years, and depending if that client took a 25-year or 30-year amortized mortgage, if you took a 30-year, you're paying 60 to 70% was going towards your interest. 30 to 40% was going towards your principal. So you weren't chipping away at a whole lot. So to give you a case study on that, if you were at a 1.35% rate, you had an $840,000 mortgage, you're going to be ending up with about $685,000 at renewal after 5 years, which is not too bad. You chipped away a decent amount of principal. Now, taking the fact, though, that when you are renewing, right now, we can't project what the rates are going to be, but given what they are today, you're looking at that 3 to 4 times increase, because right now, I wrote down a couple rates here live as of today. My best 3-year refinance rate is at 4.74, and my best 5-year refinance rate is at 4.69. So it's a huge increase from the 1.35% you locked into 5 years ago. Now, for anybody currently owning a property, that might be a little scary, but if you have the right rental income coming in or the right income to afford that, then you're in great shape. Now, for my investors out there, where this is really exciting, and again, it's I don't like to make it seem like you're preying on the downfall of somebody else, but there will be clients that aren't able to afford this renewal. And simply they're going to have to look at selling that property. And that's where a great realtor like Tish would be able to take you out and show you, okay, here's some, properties that are maybe undervalued or right at the right value, because again, these clients are just not able to afford these payments anymore. And I feel like we're going to see a bit of a fire sale. Now, in terms of the fluctuation in the market, what a lot of people think is, okay, a rate cut came out, that's great, market's going to see it right away. That's so far from the truth that it actually takes from 3 to 6, sometimes even 12 months for that rate cut to affect the market. And the main reason being is a lot of the time, a lot of these real estate stats you see that are on the news and the media are actually 3-4 months behind. And they're giving you stats for September that were actually from May or June. One of the key factors about that, where I could speak on the lending side, is with any A or B lender. So A being your TD, Scotiabank, any financial institution, the big five, or any B lender, which is a credit union like Home Trust, Equitable Bank, and whatnot. They actually don't foreclose on your property until 6 missed payments. So what's that mean? A client can actually withhold their payment and miss 6 payments before any enforcement is taking place. So taking that into effect, 6 payments is about 6 months mortgage delinquency, that the banks are not taking any action, which actually slows down the market. So especially when you see the banks talking about their delinquency rates, again, those are at least a minimum of 6 months behind. So that's why it's a long play, and you have to really time when you're getting to the market. That's why you have to work with a great realtor that understands these key metrics when targeting, when getting to the market or looking at certain areas. Now, going back to the numbers here, fixed versus variable, the great thing was 75% of these mortgages are fixed rates that are coming up for renewal. So you have a lot of clients that were able to keep afloat at that cheap mortgage payment. So hopefully they saved up enough for this renewal that's coming up, and 25% are at a variable rate. So those are the ones that we're currently seeing on the lending side are in a bit of hot water, especially if they had a variable rate mortgage versus an adjustable. Now, just to give you some insight on what that is, an adjustable rate mortgage, it adjusts as the rate increases. So if you're at a 1.85 and it went to 2% and whatnot, so on and so forth, especially if you were with Scotiabank or BMO, your payment increased as the rates increased. So your payments will decrease as the rate decreases. Now, if you're in a variable rate mortgage, it seems great on the forefront, but on the back end, it can be very dangerous, especially in the market cycle we just went through with the Bank of Canada. And what happens is, let's say your payment was $2,000 at that 1.85%. If the rates moved all the way up to 4.25%, your payment still stayed at $2,000. And a lot of our clients don't understand how or why that happened. Well, what's happening is your amortization on the back end is actually increasing. And why I'm saying that could be a scary thing is because if you look at your amortization schedule, I have some clients right now that are 85, 90 to even 100 years amortization. And if you look at the banks right now, they're only offering a max of 30-year amortization. So what's that mean when you come up for renewal? Well, if your property doesn't have equity to increase your mortgage, or you don't qualify to increase your mortgage, it's what's called a cash call. The bank's going to say, hey, so-and-so, you're at 85-year amortization. We got to bring that thing right back down to 30-year amortization. You owe $50,000 to do that. And I'm already seeing it. Clients of mine are already getting letters in the mail saying we need 20, 30, 40, $50,000 within 90 days. So again, I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and it depends what side you fall on that. But where that looks good, talking, in terms of this webinar works for mortgage investors, is you're going to see a lot more supply on the market because these clients are simply not going to be able to come up with that cash call, or they might be able to, but again, you're going into secondary lending, which costs a lot more, which inevitably they're going to have to list that property because they can't afford those payments anymore. You're going to see more supply on the market, and you're going to have more of an opportunity to purchase a price potentially at a discount. I feel like it's going to be more of a balance to buyer's market versus obviously a seller's market, which we saw in 2020, 2021, and majority of 2022. Now let's talk rates. I spoke a little bit about them, and are they increasing? Are they decreasing? So the rate announcement dates, we just had the one October 23rd. So I want to leave that in there because that was a big date. Again, it was great. It was 0.5%. We were hoping for 0.75%, but we're hoping to see a larger rate cut, hopefully 0.75 to even 1%. Some of these banks are talking by December 11th. Ideally, I feel December 11th, we're going to get a minimum cut of 0.5%. A lot of the big banks were stating that they're looking for a 1% decrease before year's end. So that's great. Again, getting into the market and also for sustaining the market and keeping the prices afloat because it brings back hopefully some buyers' confidence. Now, in the grand scheme of things, what I try to teach my clients is don't get too hung up on these rate cuts because at the end of the day, depending on what properties you're looking at, if you're looking at a property that's going to have a mortgage of around $1 million, that 0.5% is simply a $500 decrease. So it's not like it's a massive savings. And that's why I tell my clients, don't wait on these rate cuts. Again, work with the right realtors to educate you on what's the right time to enter certain markets that you're currently looking in. Because again, these rate cuts, they're great. They help feed the market. But again, 0.5% on $1 million is only a $500 discount when the dust settles and the math balances itself out. Now, are the rates increasing or decreasing? Well, with the Bank of Canada update, what you have to remember is that update affects directly the variable rates, does not affect the fixed rates. So what was great was that the Bank of Canada rate came down 0.5%, bringing the prime rate to 5.95. So if you have a variable rate mortgage, whatever your discount is, so let's say your discount is prime -1, you're currently sitting at a 4.95%. Now, a lot of the times people think that this also correlates with the fixed rates, and it doesn't. The fixed rates correlate off of the 5-year bond yield. Now, the bond yield actually hasn't come down that much. Funny enough, it actually increased today, and I looked at it right before we jumped on this call to give you guys a live and accurate number, and it's currently sitting at just over 3%, so 3.02. And the way the banks price their fixed rates based off these bond rates are 150 to 200 basis points higher than the current listed 5-year bond rate. And we usually get our update every Friday. So as I mentioned, as of today, our 5-year fixed rate is at 4.69, which would have been based around a 2.69 to 2.89 bond rate. Now, given that the rates right now are at 3%, depending on where they're going to finish out on Wednesday is usually where the banks cut that off, and then they set the rates for Friday. We'll actually probably see the fixed rates increase to 4 point, I'd say actually just hovering around 5%. So again, another thing I always recommend to my clients is always going to a always going to a mortgage broker and locking in a pre-approval. One is to obviously see what you're approved for, but the second piece is to actually lock in a rate. Because the beauty is we could hold a rate for you up to 120 days. And sometimes if we go a little bit over, we're able to get an exception. But the beauty of that is that if today I lock you in at the rate of 4.69 and you close out a property in 90 days, you're locked in at that 4.69% rate. Now, if the bond rates stay higher and the rates increase on Friday, you're still great. You're locked in at 4.69. Now, here's the beauty. If the rates drop a lot lower, we're actually able to give you the rate you locked in at or the lower of the two. So if in 90 days you go purchase a property and you're locked in at 4.69, but the rates drop down to 4% flat, no problem. We could simply switch you over to that 4%. So that's why I always recommend if you're in the market to purchase within the next 3 to 4 months, always get a pre-approval to simply lock in that rate. It's also very important to see what you're able to afford, but locking in that rate could save you hundreds of dollars because that fluctuation happens on a weekly basis that a lot of people don't know about. It's the variable rate that takes into consideration what the Bank of Canada's prime rate is going to be at. Now, the last piece here is fixed versus variable. So if you're one of my clients or you're looking to get into the market right now, I highly recommend going to a variable rate. Yes, it is higher. And right now, like our cheapest variable rate for uninsured is 5.4%. But why I recommend going into a variable rate, simply to the fact that we're seeing all the signs point to the Bank of Canada cutting rates again and again. And the beauty is if you go into a 5-year variable mortgage, you're actually able to switch to a 5-year fixed mortgage at any point in time in your term or whatever is left in that term. So if you're on your if you have 4 years left, you can switch to a 4-year fixed mortgage. So I always recommend that to my clients, especially when we see the rates on a decline, because there's no point in locking in for a fixed rate right now, because we do see these rates are going to be coming down, especially coming into the middle of 2025. So that's why I highly recommend taking a 5-year variable. Yes, bite the bullet, pay a little bit more right now, but ensure you have that flexibility. You can always lock in whenever you want for no penalty. If you're in a fixed rate mortgage and you want to switch to a lower rate, you got to bite the bullet and pay the interest rate differential or the 3-month interest penalty, whatever is the higher of the two at the time. So that's why I recommend right now, if you're looking to purchase, going in with a variable rate mortgage. Now, the future of lending. So what do we have going on? What are the banks offering? What are they offering first-time home buyers, amortization adjustments to come? So the great thing is, a lot of you, I'm sure, heard the banks had come out with a new plan for first-time home buyers, offering them 30-year amortization on new construction. So that caused a lot of stir in the community, and it forced them to further put in new measures, which was great for first-time home buyers and already current homeowners. So what those are is anybody looking for a first-time home buyer, you're able to purchase with a 30-year amortization, whether it's a pre-construction or a previous built home, so already a home that's already completed and it's going to be a resale, which is great because having that extra 5 years adds that extra 5 years elasticity to your payment, which inevitably makes your payment cheaper. Now, on top of that, they've increased the $1 million threshold for insured mortgages up to $1.5 million, which is huge. Because again, if you're looking in that Toronto, Vaughan, GTA area, I don't know where you're finding a property under $1 million, especially if you're a small family. It's very hard to find something within that budget range that's going to suit your needs. So bringing it to $1.5 million will assist you to put down 5% on the first 500,000 and the remaining 10 to 15% on the remaining amount of $1 million, which is great. Now, what's really awesome is for current homeowners that have an owner-occupied home, they're actually able to purchase another property now, move from owner-occupied to another owner-occupied property, and take advantage of that same $1.5 million. So let's say you're currently in a condo at $800,000 and you're a first-time home buyer, you took advantage, you're getting married, you're having a kid, you're having your second kid, you need to upgrade properties, but you simply can't muster up that $250,000 down payment to get into a, 1 million plus to 1.5 million plus property. You're able to now take advantage on a 25-year amortization, putting less than 20% down up to 1.5 million. So again, that's for owner-occupied clients that currently have a property that are not first-time home buyers, and this only is allowed if you're buying another owner-occupied property. So you can't use this to buy a rental property. It has to be your primary residence. But again, this is huge, which I feel is going to stimulate the market. November 21st when it kicks in. So I feel realtors are going to see a lot of offers at the 1.5 million and under mark for anybody looking to enter the market. Because again, on 1.5 million, simply putting 10% down works out to $150,000. Again, with the sliding scale, it's going to be about 175 or 170,000, depending where you're looking. But that's amazing because anywhere before on 1.5 million, you'd have to put down 20%, which is $300,000. So you can cut your down payment in half right now and still get that $1.5 million property. Now, amortization adjustments, we're hoping to see that's going to be the next push when renewals come. Unfortunately, I feel like we have to see the downside of the market first before the banks make that change. And that goes back to my negative amortization that I was speaking about earlier. So I'm hoping we see some 40-year amortization products to, again, help these clients that have that negative amortization that are in the 80 to 90 to 100-year amortization schedule right now. We did see it before in 2020 when rates were higher before they cut in the middle of March. I actually completed some mortgages that were on a 40-year amortization to really help out some clients, and it was a great product. So fingers are crossed that we're hoping to see a lot of these lenders and banks bring back that offering. Another thing too is, what are the banks offering? Well, we're seeing the banks are becoming competitive again. So again, that's why I recommend always using a mortgage broker, because we're able to shop your rate to all the banks off of one application and one credit pull. Instead of you going to TD, applying, they offer you a rate, then going across the hall to BMO and applying, and they offer you a rate and making them battle it out, you're actually taking on 2 credit hits. And a credit hit goes between 10 to 15 points. So we're able to take 1 credit hit and we're able to shop it around to over 85 different lenders that we currently have to search the best rate option for you. And again, these banks are hungry. They were not lending as aggressive as they were in 2024 and to the end of 2023. And they need to put the money out. They need to hit their budgets. They need to hit their goals. Hint, hint, especially with TD, they just took a $3 billion lawsuit that they have to pay out. So I feel like they're going to be the most aggressive right now on lending out some money at a great rate to definitely recoup some of that revenue. Now, before I get into the questions, I wanted to go over another investment opportunity of which you could use to scale your portfolio if you're not ready yet to maybe purchase another property, or maybe just simply doesn't align with your budget or what you're seeing the rental could yield for you. And that is in private lending. So what I did here is I kept it super basic. I didn't want to throw too many numbers. It goes way more in depth, but I wanted to show you an example here on how you could earn with private lending using your current property. So let's say your current property is free and clear and it's worth about $1 million. You're able to take a max home equity line of credit of 65% loan to value. Now I'm using a home equity line of credit versus a mortgage because a home equity line of credit is a pay-as-you-go option, meaning as you take the money out is when you pay for the interest on whatever you're borrowing. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but it gives you that flexibility to pay down or borrow again. So to keep the numbers simple, let's take $1 million property. The max loan to value, you're able to get a 65% loan to value on a HELOC. And at a current rate right now, if I were to get you a HELOC, is going to be prime plus one. So 5.95% plus 1%. So you're going to be borrowing that $650,000 at 6.95%. Just on interest, if you want interest only, that's going to cost you $3,764.58 a month. Now, you can use that HELOC to buy a property and you hope you generate that yield. Because again, on that new property, you're going to either buy it in cash or you're going to use your HELOC for your down payment. So you're going to be paying that interest there, plus your brand new mortgage. You got to get that rental income to cover. Now, the beauty with private lending is you're still in the real estate market. It's still backed by real estate. And we have a couple options, whether you can invest through our fund or you can become an individual investor yourself with your own money, and we put you on title. So the way it works in layman's terms, and I'm going to give you my information to book a call after if you want to dive deeper, but to keep this really short and sweet, if a client is looking for a first or second mortgage, the way it works is we put you on title of that property, so you're secured against that property. We do the proper underwriting due diligence to ensure that the equity is there. So if the client were to default and not make any payments, we have to sell the property, you're able to recoup your funds from the sale of that property. We also put you on the insurance of that property. So we put you as a first or secondary loss payee. Now, what that means is, in simplest terms, if that property were to burn down and you're in first position for 650,000, their payout is for $1 million. You get your 650 first, and then that client will get the remainder of that 350,000 or whatever's left after the fact. So you're protected on both ends. On top of that, we don't do a mortgage unless there's title insurance, which protects us against any mortgage fraud that may happen with appraisals or any fraudulent documents you get. So again, you're still backed by real estate, because worst case scenario, they don't pay, you're on title, we assume the property, and you either sell it or you keep it for yourself. Which again, that's very high level. We could go a lot deeper with that, but that's where your security lies. Now, going back to borrowing that money at 6.95%, at a rate of $3,764 a month that you're paying, we can actually lend it out at 10%, which is an average. We could go 8%, we could go 12, 13%. It depends on your risk appetite. And I explained that in my consultation call as to what your risk appetite is. And it doesn't have to be $650,000. You can start with as low as $25,000 or $50,000. But for the sake of this scenario, let's use that same 650. So you pulled it out of your property, you're paying $3,764 on that. At 10%, you're earning $5,416 a month. So the beauty is simple math. Take what you're earning, subtract it from what you're borrowing in that. You're actually netting out $1,652 a month. Now, the reason why I wanted to show using a HELOC versus a mortgage is because as you're paying that mortgage down and you're making those payments, you're actually paying down the HELOC, earning the equity again that you're able to pull out again for another mortgage, obviously as you pay it down, but you're actually paying it off while making an income of $1,652. So taking that without having to worry about any rental property, property management, any issues with the property, are the tenants going to pay or whatnot, you're protected and you're guaranteed that $1,652 a month. And simply the way we do our clauses, if that client doesn't pay, they have 15 days to make good on that payment with an NSF fee of $300 to $500 that you earn for that missed payment. And if they don't make that payment, we push them into what's called a power of sale and start proceedings on that property, which 9 times out of 10, the client will sell that property because they don't want to lose all the equity to the power of sale. So I know I spat out a lot of numbers to you. I just want to show you simply what you're borrowing at, what you're lending at, what your ROI is going to be, just on a simple case terms. And there's so many different scenarios I could go over with you. Now, before we get to the Q&A, here's my information here. That's my Instagram handle where you could DM me. That is my my email, or you could also scan my contact card. My personal number is there, my office number is there. All the information on me is there for us to connect. You can use my calendar link. You'll see it's calendly.com/Michael Sakuro. It's going to be in that scan. And yeah, you're able to book a time with me, 15, 30, 45, 60 minutes. And I'm more than happy to go over what I talked about today, as well as more so private lending. Because for me, it's been a huge tool in diversifying my portfolio, as I still do own rental properties. But sometimes, what I find is a lot of my investors just don't want that headache of owning that investment property, dealing with the tenants, dealing with all the potential headaches that may come with it if you don't want to be a landlord. A landlord's great. There's a great return and you're appreciating the value of that property. But on the flip side with this, you're still backed by real estate, earning that monthly return. And if they don't pay, we take the property. So that's the end of everything I had to speak about, but I'm more than happy to go over any questions you guys may have and answer any questions. If you want to put them in the chat or raise your hand, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Wow. Yeah, man. That was serious. That was serious. You're going in. Yo, yeah, thank you for that, man. Yeah, anyone have questions, put it in the chat. I see Ian. Yes, Ian. What's going on, brother? Tax professional. He said, plus you get tax write-off. So I guess that for the lending option that you're just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're able to write off, like I do it for myself with one of my properties. I have a home equity line of credit. So your ideal situation is take that rental property that you have, build the equity up, and take out the line of credit from there. Because you're claiming the rental income you're making, but you're maxing out your mortgage on that property. So you're able to write off the interest of that property and then
Mm.
lend it out on the other end. So you get double the income for that property while you have your rental income, you have your rental write-off for all your maintenance and all the stuff we throw in there, especially Ian if he's an accountant, he knows what he could throw in there to bring down that rental income. And then on top of it, you could also write off the mortgage that you're borrowing, that interest that you're borrowing because it is your rental property, and you can write that off against that $1,600 I was talking about that you earn on a monthly return. He's giving me the thumbs up, so I got it right.
Okay, okay. That's some serious stuff. Everyone that's tuning in, you're getting these key gems right now. And that's what we're here for this session. That's what invest for cash flow is all about. This is an amazing way to invest for cash flow right here. So you were saying that 650. Well, you said it's any there's any range. Like what? Obviously, you have like a minimum that people can invest, like that they're able to do this investment strategy, right?
Yeah, they could use as low as $25,000. Ideally, what we do is what's called syndicated mortgages. So let's use myself and Richard as an example. If Richard has $950,000 and I have $50,000, I could syndicate the both of us together for $1 million mortgage. So
Mm.
I'll earn 10% on my 50, and Richard will earn 10% on his 50, on his 950. So the borrower is getting $1 million mortgage, but the interest is being split between my 50,000 and Richard's 950. And the beauty of it is that let's say we have to go to a power sale, Richard doesn't trump me because he has more money in the game. It goes by our shares. So
Mm.
let's use a simple number of 900,000 and 100,000. If Richard has 90% of the loan, I have 10% of the loan. If we only get back $100,000, let's say everything goes wrong on this deal, Richard gets 90K, I get $10,000. So if you're coming in with $25,000, $50,000, you don't have to be worried about any bigger players in there that have a larger amount they put into that syndication, because you're both on equal playing fields. You're both on first position, second position, or whatever position you want to be in.
Okay, that's serious. And then you're
Yeah.
also talking about, right now, earlier you're saying like right now, based on how you're seeing things in the market, that there will be a fire sale. We're gonna get into that as we go deep into these numbers with the stats with the real estate market. But let's say, this fire sale happens, do you see prices decreasing, or do you like in terms of home value? Right? Like, so I'm saying, like, for the investor that wants to go with the strategy, they put it in. Of course, you said you make sure there's equity that's still there, right? But right now, in terms of what you were saying earlier, of like a fire sale that's happening, do you see the values decreasing, or do you see them being stagnant? Like how, like what
Yeah,
are
like this is just projections, but I'm
yeah.
looking. I'm based out of the Vaughan area, and
Mm,
we have some pockets that are more luxury homes. So what
mm,
I'm seeing right now is anything under 1.5 million is staying pretty strong. But
mm,
what I'm seeing is, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, we did a home equity line of credit for them a couple months back, and their property appraised at 3.2 million.
wow.
And I'm always looking at that area because luxury properties are always the first to fall. They're always the most leveraged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a power sale in that area and a property that was bigger than theirs. So it was a larger lot, 4,800 square feet on a beautiful court, sold for 1.9 million.
What? That's crazy.
Yes. because people are stuck, and I see that on a daily basis, especially because I'm in the Vaughan area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why sometimes there's a lot of realtors that disagree with me with the whole fire sale. I don't know where the market's going. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at my side of it on what I see on the mortgage on a daily basis. I see a lot of people defaulting, a lot of people coming to me saying, Michael, I need to sell. I have
Mm-hmm.
another client, his property, he had a condo, could easily go for 650,000. Lender took over the property, they sold it for 425,000. That's a
Mm-hmm.
deal and a half right there.
Mm-hmm.
Every other condo in that building is going for 650. Now, what happens is this negatively impacts the market because when you purchase that property, so you go back to that $1.9 million property. If I did that appraisal right now for that client that had the property worth 3.2 million, that appraisal is probably going to come in at 2.5
Mm-hmm.
because appraisers are going to take an adjustment. They don't care that it's a
Yeah.
power of sale. So
Yeah.
that's where again you have to be very careful in the areas you're looking at. And for all the realtors on here, I encourage you before making that offer on that property, looking at the last 6 months of properties that sold in that area, because that's going to affect your appraised value. The appraisers are being lazy nowadays. They're just looking at comparables, and that's what they're giving you the rate at.
Mm-hmm.
So you could buy a property that might be well worth $3 million in that area, but because of that 1.9 million, and there's another one that just sold last week for 1.85, I see the property coming down to 2.5 million because of those two, bad apples in the area. I saw it again in Kleinberg. Another property, New Power, sold for 2.5 million. Client of mine, his property is worth $4 million all day. I couldn't get the appraisal higher than $3 million for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in this tricky situation because of that property that power sailed right down the street.
Wow. We have a question. We have a question from Ian. Go ahead,
Yep.
Ian.
I was going to. Sorry, I actually lost the train of thought on my question when we started talking about the power sale. It's all juicy. I'm soaking it all up. But what was I going to ask? So with with your network that you have, right? And being in the industry, are you usually in a position to know of power sales opportunities coming up, especially in the Vaughan area? Is
Yeah,
that
I see it because so primarily in my business, like I have a whole team, we're a staff of 20, but I deal with just the private mortgages and the investments. So I'm the owner of the company, but that's my niche and that's just what I love. And ideally, yeah, I'm usually the last resort. So that gentleman that sold that condo for 425, he came to me a week before trying to rectify the situation. I said, there's nothing I could do. You're way over leveraged. The best bet is you're gonna have to try and sell this for a lot higher. Now, the issue was the lender took that property over, and I wish I made the offer myself because I would have taken that property all day for 425. But yes, I do see these situations. Same with that other power sale. They came to me first as an off market, trying to figure out what to do, and I usually the lenders don't care. So the best piece of advice, I used to work at the bank for 5 years. The best piece of advice I got from one of my managers is that the banks are not in the real estate business. And what I mean by that is they don't want people to default. So when they do their underwriting, they give certain loan to values. One of the rule of thumbs they use is population. So the banks, they always look at a 30,000 population or more for 80% loan to value. Then they go 10,000 to 30 and then under 10,000. Under 10,000, they're giving you 55 to 60% loan to value. The reason being is they look at it, okay, if Ian forecloses on his property and we have to sell this property and there's 4,000 people here, how fast can we recoup our money? Well, a lot slower than the population that's at 100, 200,000. So where I'm going at with this is the banks hate real estate. They're always going to sell for fair market value, which is still pretty low. They're going to sell just enough to recoup their funds. Like I'll be honest with you, I have two properties listed right now that I'm power sailing. One of them, the comparables on the street went from 2.2 to 2.4. Two of them just sold on the street. We're getting rid of the property for 1.988 if someone makes that offer. I don't care for a bidding war. I'm not going to go through a bidding war. We're going to sell it as is. I have a condo in Brantford. All the comparables in the area are going for 310 to 330. I listed at 290. You offer me 290, sold. You can have it tomorrow. I have another one in Whitby. The neighbor sold for 1125. I'll get rid of it for 1,050,000. You know what I mean? Because again, I don't care about the real estate. I don't want to be a landlord. I'm not taking over these properties. So I see these opportunities, and that's what I'll message realtors too and say, hey, let me know if you have a client in Whitby, Richmond Hill, or Brantford, because here are three properties right now. I know exactly what the bottom number is, and I'm the one deciding on what they're taking. So if we could fetch 1.1, sure. But if someone comes in at 1,050,000, sign, you close tomorrow if you like. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm always getting these opportunities, and some of them are my own opportunities.
Nice. So are you at a point where you're looking at rebalancing your portfolio and liquidating some properties as well?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the condos I have right now. It's a little trickier. There's a lot of saturation with the condos, a lot of condos listed right now, but I'd like to move out of those properties. And for me, what I'm looking for is, again, it sounds horrible, but is looking to be the savior for these mortgages, pay out these lenders, and then take over the power of sales. Because again, depends on your risk appetite. There's a great opportunity there. I'll give you a personal example. This Whitby property, we took over the mortgage of $65,000. I paid out the current lender, and I haven't been getting paid on it for a year, but our fees are now at $200,000.
Mm.
So I'm making, the upside of that $65,000. I'm taking out $200,000. So after I repay myself the principal 65,000, I'm left with the remainder. And
Mhm.
I think that's better than any real estate flip you could do or any private lending you could do out there, or any stock play. Because at the end of the day, my name's on the title of that real estate. They can't sell it, they can't remortgage it or anything without paying me out. And that 65 grand bought me a $200,000 ticket.
Mm. Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's deep. That's deep. We're already in the next session automatic. You guys just we were in it already, but you guys pretty much emphasized it, So, like what you're talking about, Michael, was really deep. And how's the real estate market? We just like to have this little session within the invest for cash flow, and you already got into it, and I want for anyone, this is open for everyone that's here, whether you're doing single family, multifamily, you're a mortgage broker, realtor, a homeowner. Maybe you're coming up for renewal, right? We want to know how's the real estate market, right? Just looking at the general stats right now, we're looking and we see this is the greater Toronto area and surrounding areas, right? We're looking, the sales have actually increased in terms of, month to month, for residential sales, right? But we're seeing the new listings also increased as well, right? So there's a lot of new listings that are coming onto the market, and we're noticing just like what Mike was saying, that the average price is coming down, right? So the average price actually dropped in terms of sale price. So we did get more sales, but the actual price of the properties have decreased, right? And we're looking at dollar value, the dollar volume in terms of what has been selling has increased, right? Lease properties, the amount has increased. I mean, in terms of how many lease properties have increased. So what that's showing right now is that people are selling, right? And they may be renting, for the time being, right? After I go over this, you guys tell me, right? And then we're noticing that the average one bedroom in terms of rental price has actually decreased, right? And then when we look at the charts here, right, we're seeing over here, it shows that the sales, they were dropping, but now it's looked like it got a little steady. Right now, I guess all the news that's been happening, it's been picking up a little sales, the new announcements and everything like that. But let's take a look at the new listings that are on the market, right? And yeah, so we see, that has shot up, and I'm seeing that firsthand, and I'm sure you're noticing, if you're driving around, you're starting to notice a lot of properties going on sale, and just like what Michael was talking about, right now some people they need to be going on. So we've seen this just shoot up, in the past month, right? We've seen that shoot up, and let's take a look at active listings, right? The listings that are active and still on the market, right? Okay, yeah, look at that. We see a trend that's going over here, guys. We see the active listings on market, that it's the trend's moving up, right? So there are more listings that are coming onto the market right now, right? So this pretty much supports what Mike was saying, but that's what we're talking about. How's the real estate market? I don't know if anyone's looking at this data, and even with your own personal experience, what are you seeing? So I want to open it up. Anyone, wants to give their little insight on here. Danielle, I know you're coming up with a lot of details, but I know you're well versed in multifamily. What are you seeing? How's the real estate market?
Yeah, you know what? Right now, the real estate market, there's some hesitation in the market still, but with the rates starting to go down, there's people that are starting to take a buzz and starting to talk about it. So a lot of people have been sitting on the sidelines for the last year or two and waiting, and a lot of buyers have been waiting. for the bottom. And so nobody should be speculating, but everybody speculates when it comes to real estate because there's a degree of that happens when you're in real estate. And ultimately, everybody just wants to wait until there's the bottom and then start buying. So I think once you start seeing a few investors coming in and buying and rate, the prices start kind of creeping up a little bit, then you're going to have more and more buyers. I mean, there's just so many people out there that are followers and they just want to wait until somebody else takes the risk. And so they're waiting for those trailblazers to come on and start investing. And once that starts happening, I think things are going to turn. So I think in the new year, honestly, again, we don't want to speculate. There's a degree of speculation that happens here, but I think in the spring, we're going to really start seeing things come around. But I think, everything Michael said, 100% on point. There's a lot of people that aren't going to survive until the spring. And there's a lot of people that are trying to sell that should be selling, but they have emotion come into play and they don't want to sell at the lower price than what they think it's worth. And they're hanging on and waiting. And what's happening is they're just not able to hang on as long as the market is taking a turn. And so then they end up getting bit. And that's where you get these power sales. The banks come in and take over. And then at that point, they've lost more than they would have if they had originally just sold it. But a lot of people are making those emotional decisions, and they're just bad decisions. When you're making an emotional decision, guys, you have to stay logical. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Thank you for adding that. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, Danielle hit it on the head, and I actually think we're probably going to see a bit of an uptick, as well going into even January, February. I know those are usually the slower times, but on my side too, there's every time there's a rate announcement coming around the corner, we get so many people putting in pre-approval applications, and there's just that FOMO. So you have a lot of these first-time home buyers. Plus, with these new rules coming in November 21st, I actually feel like we're going to see the market have a big uptick because everybody wants to get in right now. That's for sure. Everybody's been waiting on the sidelines. The whole rate cuts are going to push them to get into the market. But just like Danielle's saying, that springtime, I feel like we're really going to see the worst of it start next September. Because again, there's always that delay, there's always that lag in the market. And I think, yeah, you're going to see everybody wanting to buy right now. And at the end of the day, people are always going to hold on. So everybody's going to go through that renewal. That renewal is going to come into play. They're going to say, hey, Michael, your rate was at 1.35. Now we're going to offer you 4%. You want it? Yeah, sure. You're going to try 1 month. You're going to try 2 months. And then you're like, I can't do this anymore. But you try 1, 2 months, that's going to start in March. That's then April, then May. They list it or they try to hold on. You're looking at June, July, August is where you're going to start seeing, again, those fire sales, I like to call them. Another stat, too, I forgot to throw in there is that in 2020 and 2021, 85% of Canadians borrowed their down payment. And the average borrowed amount was $135,000. And at the end of the day, yes, there's bank of mom and dad, but a lot of the times, because I saw this on my side, that bank of mom and dad were taking out home equity line of credits or mortgages on their properties. So I look at this as people are 100% leveraged. So that's increasing on the money they borrow that hopefully they're helping their parents pay, or they're hopefully in their sake, the parents are paying that. You have people that are 100% leveraged right now.
Wow. That's serious.
But if they borrow that down payment, at the end of the day, if it came from a family member and that family member, passes away in 10, 20 years, someone's got to repay that debt, which inevitably falls down to the kid.
Yeah.
So another scary factor as well when you're looking at this. And that's why towards what Danielle's saying is a lot of people are going to hold on because there is that factor in there. Again, I've been looking for places myself and I've been shooting out offers. I had a property I went to go see again. It was a condo. So I'm trying to target these 1+1s just to give a short story. And they listed at 545. I shot an offer as a low ball because again, with my knowledge, I looked it up. I saw that their mortgages were in bad waters. And then also when I went to go look at the property, there was actually a notice from Electra that they're shutting off the power the very next day. And this person stayed strong. They said to me, they asked me if it was a typo, my offer. And I said, based on the comparables, I said in January, the 1+1s with a 1 bath were selling for 545. I said, I think you're nowhere near even 500 grand, but I'll offer you 500 grand. And they said, no, we've been getting offers for more than 545, yada, yada, yada. We're not even taking those. And I keep watching that property because I know it's going to end up in bad waters because at the end of the day, there's default on the first, default on the second, and the power's being shut off. But people have that pride. And again, too, that's what happens when you don't use an educated realtor. This realtor, you could always do your research. This is their only listing they've had for the whole year. And it's a family member he's listing for. So they're trying to save costs on, paying maybe that commission. But that's what happens when you use a fly-by-night realtor that has no track record, has no experience. And that's where I always recommend always making sure you interview your realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
realtors
definitely.
out here, make sure you're educated for your client, because that's what's going to separate the strong from the weak. And that's why
Yeah.
you had, 100,000 realtors in 2020, and now you're left with, 75,000, which 35 of them are actually active, because everybody wanted to get their license because it was really easy to put their sign on the lawn, and everybody sold the property in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was like order
Now it's
taking. It was like
exactly,
order taking,
exactly. Now it's
Yeah,
where the real realtors are going to shine.
yeah,
Can
for
I just
sure.
rant here for a sec? I just need to,
Yeah,
Richard,
yes.
please.
Yeah, that's what this
Yeah.
session is. This session is that's what it is. It's a
Dude,
discussion. Go
well,
ahead.
let me just tell you guys. Okay, if you don't already know this, I'm going to tell you right now. What Michael is telling you guys is gold. You got to understand fully understand what he's trying to tell you right now, because there's a stat. I don't remember the stat that I had was old, because it was quite a few years ago. But in Toronto, just in the Toronto proper, okay, in TREB, TREBB, in TREB, in the Toronto MLS system, there are, of all of the realtors, and legitimately thousands of realtors, I think it was 80,000, it was over 80,000, 87, last I checked last year. And you're right, that has dropped off a lot because the market, I mean, there's a saying out there, when the tide goes out, we see you swimming naked, right? So it's kind of like when the market kind of goes through this rinsing cycle, it really washes out people who shouldn't be in the market, not just realtors, but investors and all across the board, mortgage brokers and everything. So, but the thing is that even of those who have survived, of the ones that are still here, it is less than 5% of realtors just in TREB, okay? And this is pretty much the same. The stats are going to be a little bit different on other MLS boards, but roughly the same. It is less than 5% of the registered licensed realtors who do over 90% of the transactions. Think about that, guys. The reason why I wanted to emphasize what Michael is saying here is so that you understand that not all realtors are created equal, period. So it's really important. I mean, we're going to talk about, when I'm speaking, we're going to talk about vetting your joint venture partners, but you got to also vet all of the service people that you work with on your professional team, on your service team, and they have to understand exactly what it is that you want and where you're going, what your goals are in order to put you in the best situation. So what Michael is saying here is about one realtor, but there are thousands of realtors like that. And if you didn't catch it, what he said is you can go on MLS.com, look at what they have listed, see how many listings they have. If they don't have a lot of listings, really question how many transactions do they do a year? Are they investor friendly? Really ask those questions, because if you don't, that realtor is there's a saying in the realtor world, if you overlist initially, you'll undersell eventually. And so that's what happens with all of these kind of one-time, one-off realtors is, they kind of think, oh, we're going to get this. And they're just super optimistic. I don't think they try to hurt you. They just don't really know any better. And so anyway, that's kind of my rant. Sorry, Richard. What Michael was saying here is like on point. I just want to make sure everybody understands.
That's what this session's for. That's this session. We really want to go into discussion, and in that the discussion has to have multiple people talking. I see Realtor Doma on here. I see our Harley Holmes. I don't know your exact name, but I know you are in the profession. How does the real estate market look like to you? Thank you, Danielle, as well, for adding that for sure, because that's definitely key. That's definitely key. And a lot of times, even myself, I'm always out door knocking as well, meeting with homeowners, and it's very often when you get, oh yeah, my brother's a realtor, my dad's a realtor, this and that is a realtor, right? But they're not really in it, like going in, getting this kind of detail, right? And like the realtors that I see you on here, you guys are in the house. I give it up to you because we all got to be sharp. In whatever it is that we do, we all got to be sharp, and just keep retaining more and more information on how to make this industry, better and a higher standard. So. I reached out to realtors. You guys have any input on how's the real estate market? If not, we're going to go into the next session right now. So Yes, yes. Realtor in these rooms are the ones you need to do business with. Yes, all right. Thank you, Danielle, for that shout out for sure. You know,
Hey guys,
for, so Eve, if Eve, you're the next
can you hear me?
speaker, we're gonna have you on there. But if you, I know you're a real estate investor as well. You know, so if you don't mind, you know, why don't you start off with that as well? Like, how's the real estate market for you? And then, you know, transition into, I know you got a deep talk where you're going to be going into the mindset and stuff like that. But, you know, real quick, just to end off this session, you know, how's the real estate market? You know, please.
Can I say something quickly before you
Okay,
start?
yes, please. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Introduce yourself.
My Zoom keeps going and I wasn't able to say anything. Can you guys hear me?
A little bit. You're a little muffled though. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm having a little bit of problem with my Zoom today. I'm not sure why. I was just like Daniela said, and also for Michael said earlier. I know, Mike, you talked about sellers being a little stubborn in terms of selling when the time comes. I have had some previous clients, so actually 2 months ago, I had 3 clients call me up crying that the banks are coming to the house. So listening to the story, they ended up holding on to it when it was time for them to sell. And eventually the bank came and there was nothing else that I can help them with. So I think anyone who's here who's in that position, when the time comes, don't hold on to it too long because the banks are not friendly. You miss a payment, 2 payments, they're coming for you and they come hard. One of my clients, they came, locked the doors without even us knowing. And how we found out is there was actually a showing that somebody went to, and he's like, "Hey, your doors are locked, change." And I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a notice here." So anyone here who's in that position, I know houses are more sentimental, and it can, you wake up and say, "Oh, I can do it, I can do it," but when the don't hold on to it too long because you can actually sell and make some money rather than bank coming and you don't make nothing else. And more so, they will probably come back with a big bill if they don't sell for the value you need. So that was my intake of the too.
All right, thank you so much for that. I know he was a little muffled, but I did my ear close to listen what he was saying, and he was pretty much backing what Danielle and Michael were talking about, where he had a client that was he was showing a property to them at their home and to a home, and I guess the door was locked and the keys weren't working, and they asked what was going on, and you know that the house actually got taken over as it was listed, right? And there's people who want to hold off, and you know I have clients that are on the same, and of course, no one wants to sell their home, but you know just like what he was to talk about is you know you could still get something from that house, right? So it's not like you lost everything. Right now there's still equity in the homes. Like if we look at those stats, we see the numbers before and the numbers now, right? And we're still good. If you bought your house around like 2018, 2019, around that time, you still have some equity that's in there, right? So it's just if you bought at that peak, at that high peak, okay, maybe it's a little lower. They don't have much in there, but most homes have equity in there. So of course, you wanted that extra 500,000, or that was there. Hey, walk away with 300,000, and then reevaluate and see, especially for investors, right? Investors, if it's not your primary residence and it's an investment property, right? And you're trying to get the most out of it right now, just like Michael said, like and just like Danielle and the realtor Darkwire who was just speaking right now, sell it, get some money, and then do something with that after. So thank you so much. That was the session. How's the real estate market? This is something that we want to do every month, and we need everyone on board. We need the professionals in the room, to give their insight. This is our 4th month of doing the session, and what we've seen the market trends moving. We've seen what's been going on, right? And that's what it is. Just keeping your eye on the market and see what's going on. So amazing session. And now okay. Someone before we do our next speaker, someone said want to know more about the tax write-off. Renting my unit, do I have to add it to my income? Okay, so that's a tax question. So we're gonna get Ian. Actually, Ian, Ian, I'm muted. Ian, go ahead. Go tell him real quick. Go ahead. Back to him. we're gonna have Ian as a speaker at one of our future sessions. But go ahead, Ian. Tell them about that little briefing so we can get to our next speaker.
So just to quickly summarize, when it comes to write-offs typically come into a conversation where we talk about expenses, right? And most people ask questions about, Ian, what can I expense? What's allowed to expense? The honest truth that those expenses are actually unlimited, as long as it's an expense that's incurred for the purpose of producing a profit. So when we take that theory and we apply it to the situation Michael was talking about, because Michael was explaining that he was leveraging his HELOC. He was leveraging his HELOC, right, to be able to do some type of form of investment. The interest now that HELOC is being produced, the interest that's being produced by that HELOC now becomes a write-off against your income tax. And that write-off gets to get you back, depending on your structure. If you're in a sole proprietor, or you're a direct owner of the property, you're looking at, let's say on average, let's say somewhere between like a 33% kickback per dollar. And if you are a incorporation in Ontario, you're looking at about like a 12.2% kickback per dollar. But it's based off of the fact that the money was borrowed to be used to invest. And so now the interest that you're now paying on that borrowed money becomes an additional write-off that you can use to expense against whatever that investment is. In terms of the gentleman's or gentle lady's question, was there something specific that you had off the top of your mind that you want to understand about renting your unit? And if you have to add it to your income, if you're renting out your unit for income, any income that you earn does need to be added to your taxes. But if you had any specific question, I can answer that for you real quickly.
And feel free to unmute your mic too, Owusu. If it's something that you're typing and it's taking time to type, you just unmute your mic and you can just give your question. If not, we're gonna get into our next speaker. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate you. Right, our next speaker, Eve Panaguten. Is that correct? You know?
No, Richard. At this
Okay.
point, we have to work on this. Honestly,
Give
Richard.
it to us. Introduce
No.
yourself.
You have. I'm not gonna begin unless you say it right.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Ready? Are
Yeah,
you ready?
yeah.
Are you ready? Watch this. Watch this.
Okay. What is it?
Eve Panaguitan. Panagutin.
Gitan.
Okay. Gitan. Okay.
Come on,
Panagitan.
Richard. I came here as a presenter. It's my
Okay,
second
say my
time.
last name. Say my
Come
last
on.
Pronounce my last name. Pronounce my last name.
Akedo Kesi.
Yeah, come on. You see? Okay, I feel better.
I
feel
don't
better.
Kesi.
I feel better. It's Richard Adokesi. I feel better. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're good.
No, I just have to make sure everyone's awake in this call. Where's everyone?
So Eve, thank you so much. The floor is yours. Please, let us know what you got to share with us.
Yeah, before I begin, I just want to do a pulse check on everybody here. I don't know if anybody can turn on their cameras or just kind of show a little bit of engagement, like who's really in the room. I just want to get a pulse on everybody. Okay, I see people that have their camera on, but the ones that don't have their camera on, I really invite you guys to have your camera or just type on the chat box, right? Because I want to make this as engaging as possible, because to me, this is a very important topic. And I want to go into this by creating this engagement first as a thought in everybody's head. I just want to hear what everybody is here for. What are you guys looking to do in terms of what you guys are looking to accomplish? Just, if you can unmute yourself, say something, or just type it in the chat box. I just want to hear, because it seems like everybody's here at 7:30 p.m. on a Monday night. So this means I feel like people here are hungry, but I want to know what we're everyone hungry for. What is everyone looking to do or accomplish? Anybody? Anyone trying to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio here, or what's everyone saying? What does everybody here have an idea on what they want to accomplish? And that 2 million a year. Okay, next year. Okay, completely possible. Okay, learning. Anybody else? Anybody? Buy a investment property in the GTA, cash flow, appreciation. Not sure if it's possible. Okay, okay. That's amazing. So people are trying to obviously generate new sources of revenue, new ways, taxes. Okay. What about taxes? What do you want with taxes? What about taxes? Owusu. I don't think anybody wants taxes, but what about taxes do you bring up? You want to learn how to save taxes or be your own government and tax people? Like, what are we thinking here? Write off. Okay, okay. Sounds good. Networking with experts. Yeah, that sounds good. That's amazing. Okay, I have a little presentation for you guys, and I just want to go through this because, and then I'll also share my story in the process. Really pretty. I have a really pretty presentation here. Okay, so we only live one life. Is it about lifestyle? No, it's about contribution. It's about how we spend our days, and it all depends on how we see ourselves and our self-image. Now, everybody has a story, and I want to tell you a little bit about my story. I started real estate investing about 5 years ago, and I started with like fix and flip homes, and then slowly transitioned into multifamilies, and then doing contract deals and land developments. So kind of flipping those contracts. So I got involved with a little bit of industrial deals as well in the duration of within those 5 years because of the network that I was able to build up. About earlier this year, late last year, I started really giving a lot of the things that I was doing a reflection, only because I really wanted to understand what real estate meant for me. Because there is a part of real estate that I don't do. I don't manage my own properties. Like I have a property management in place, like a property management team. And I really wanted to understand is real estate for me, and was it something that I was going to continue doing? And you know, like I've accomplished, like I would say, pretty decent success within my real estate portfolio. I generated, you know, revenue that I never thought before. I made a lot of money from it. And I definitely, I would say, reached new heights in terms of where I came from, like from growing up where I was, and even my parents never even owning real estate. And then having me own like real estate first in my family, especially in North America. So as soon as I took a step and really wanted to understand what it is that I'm actually meant for, I hired my mentor, which honestly I love him because I'm still working with him right now. And after a long-winded discussion, I truly understood that it wasn't the real estate part that I actually liked. And the only reason that I actually just went into real estate is honestly because of the paradigm of understanding that owning real estate was considerably success, like owning as much real estate. Because like when growing up, people would be like, oh, if you own real estate, that's good. So I'm like, why not own a lot? So I was like, yeah, let's just go buy a bunch, right? Which wasn't like, I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand that, but it's not truly what I wanted. I wanted it for the time because I thought that was success, which means measurable in other people's eyes, but it wasn't success in my eyes. And so when I really took a step back, I truly understood which part of the business that I like, which was truly capital raising and finding the opportunities, which really propelled me to where I am right now and the connections that I have and the business that I'm able to build. And right now, we're actually, aside from the businesses that I own, I'm actually raising capital for my emerging market fund. And what that means is we are actually investing that money into India, where it's more of like a long-term investments for investors. And the investors that you usually deal with are coming in at minimum like around 10 million liquid. And so because it is like an international emerging market fund, aside from that, that's something that I'm building the power team, meaning like my board of directors and raising the capital. It was one thing that I did step out into because I strongly believe that this is the key. And as to the reason why it doesn't matter how much knowledge people have towards certain things, It's usually like your self-image and how you perceive yourself in this process. And so I really want to go into this presentation. So I just want to get everyone's thumbs up that everyone can see my presentation right now. Just want to see that. Okay. So the journey is strictly between you and yourself and no one else is involved. So everyone agree with that? It's like nobody else is going to come and save you other than yourself. No one else is going to help you unless you go out there, go do these lives, come out and listen and learn as much as you can, right? Now, the power of mindset. Mindset has the power to ability to give you a life that most people only dream of. Your mindset will do the same for you, and the secret is your mindset. See, John F. Kennedy asked once, what would it take to build a rocket that would carry a man to the moon and bring him back safely to the earth, right? And the answer is the will to do it. Okay? In just 10 seconds of decision making, you can decide to do something that you have never done before. And it comes to that decision making. Okay? Success formula is success strategy plus mindset, 95% most of it. Who here believes that success is mostly mindset? 95% mindset, 5% strategy. Can I get a thumbs up, guys? Yeah. So if you guys like, see what happens is you need to be mentally prepared to execute on anything. It doesn't matter how much tools you have. You could have all the money in the world, but without the right mindset, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. Okay. So now your goal becomes your mindset and you have to study your mind. Okay. If you guys truly understand, like believe that mindset is the key to success, you have to truthfully reflect on your surroundings, right? Your results tell the truth. So if you actually really prioritize mindset above all else, you'll see success within your life. And if you truly believe that, your results will tell you the truth. And your results are your happiness, health, and wealth. You see, many people can attain a significant amount of wealth, but that doesn't mean they have the best health. You know, people can generate a lot of money, they can make a lot of money through multiple streams of income, maybe even active income, right? But then their health takes an effect, right? Or their personal life takes an effect. Because at the end of the day, the priority wasn't the mindset. The priority was to do the business, to get the job done, or to make the money, right? So anytime that you guys try to pursue something, you have to understand that your results will always tell you the truth, right? And that if you are not focusing the priority in learning the mindset in what you're doing, it won't go as far as what you want it to be, because I'm going to show you why. Okay. So you have to develop your mental faculties. What you're doing when you're really studying mindset is sharpening your key faculties, your perception, imagination, will, memory, intuition, and reason. Okay. Here's the thing, guys. You guys can go into different strategies, go into different businesses, or let's say you want to go get into land development and you work with a lot of different people in terms of doing that development, and they'll teach you exactly how to do the little nuances of permits and sign-offs and whatnot. However, nobody can really train you how to not lose $30 million for development. Only your intuition can do that. So in essence, you can go and learn as much as you can within the actual book of knowledge. But these things, these higher faculties to which you have, because what happens is we have something called the prefrontal cortex. And our prefrontal cortex is what makes us different from animals. Animals have intuition, we have higher faculties. And see, what happens is if we're not studying mindset, we are not studying ourselves, we are unable to use these things to its full potential. And that's why a lot of people are typically afraid to reach out to opportunities, because they don't feel like they've sharpened their intuition, or they can trust themselves into doing something, and they don't know what it sounds or feels like to be doing something that they are supposed to do, rather than being crippled within multiple decisions, right? Your perception also takes a factor, because what happens is if you are involved in different narratives, your perception needs to expand, especially when you're doing business, because it's not about just your story anymore. You're involving other people and different backgrounds, different paradigms, and how every story is perceived, right? And so sharpening your higher faculties will put you at a greater advantage on being able to articulate yourself, or being able to conduct business the way you want to. Your imagination plays a big factor in creating the life that you want within the future, right? And your will. Some people don't sharpen their mindset. Therefore, when they think of something, instead of the will to execute right away, they think, well, I don't know if that's something that's for me. Well, I don't know if that's, this is the right person I should work with. And so the will, instead of like will to execution as what success should take you, because will to execution is the only way to find out if it is successful or not, right? A lot of people dance around that subject, right? Memory. I talk about memory because some of the people that I work with recently, they tell me that they have bad memories. And I always tell them bad memories comes from trauma. Bad memory comes because you don't want to remember something, because you have gone through something that's such an emotional distress that you are unable, or your mind refuses that memory. But your memory gives you literally the map of what your life is supposed to look like. And every part of your past, regardless if it has that trauma involvement, can actually play a factor in your direction if it gets sharpened, right? And it's all about that healing process and understanding that. And so your reason as well, your ability to reason. So these are your higher faculties. And the more you study mindset, the more you actually sharpen these. And this is these are your guidelines into life, into business, no matter what venture you take. Because at the end of the day, all glitters are gold, right? Whatever opportunity, oh, this looks nice, I'm gonna go invest in here, or this looks nice because I want to go learn this market. All of these opportunities, the only difference is really like your ability to perform in all of them. The success can accomplish, as you can see, there's a lot of very successful people in their own niches here, but it's really based on you. It's based on your ability to perform and see how you see your self-image in the process of learning that, right? So understanding your mind. So your marvelous mind, understanding the laws governing the mind is essential to harmonizing to the money frequency. You see, you are a massive energy functioning on frequencies, okay? Here's the thing. We live in 3 planes of understanding. We are spiritual creatures, we have intellect, and we live in physical bodies. Who here agrees with me on that? Okay. So what happens is this. We get confused on who we truly are, and we try to define who we are based on our physical body. But if you really think about it, you don't say am body, am hand. You say my body, my hand, but who am I? Right? You see, the intellect is what allows you to understand what I'm saying. Okay. However, your spiritual DNA is the true you. Okay. Your spiritual DNA is what drives your body. It has that inner consciousness that we all embody, right? Your spiritual DNA is perfect. And there's nothing wrong with me saying perfect. It's actually perfect. It is all knowing. It is all powerful and ever present in the real you. And see, what happens is people are looking to wait for opportunities. They're looking to wait for the market to come down. They're looking to wait for something. Wait, wait, wait. Everything that you need in order for you to do what you want to do in life is here and now. Because your spiritual DNA is perfect. It is all knowing, all powerful, and ever present, right? So if you know that everything that you have right now, forever, wherever it is that you're going, there's no hesitation on executing on that because you have everything, all powerful, all power is within you, what you have. You know everything that you need to know in order for you to step forward. There's nothing that is lacking because what happens is this, wherever it is that you want to go, everything that you have, you already have it within you. And if you want to create that new narrative for yourself, you will receive new information, you will receive new people, you will receive new networks in order for you to pursue that goal of whatever it is you're looking for. Now, I want to talk about the role paradigms, okay? So this is your mind. So that we have 2 parts of the mind. We have our conscious educated mind and our universal mind. So, and this is our body, and everything translates into results, okay? I want to go into this more deep detail. Let's talk about our mind and paradigms. So in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet created this imagery of something that we can work with, which is the mind. So we have a conscious mind. Our conscious mind is our thinking mind. It's our educated mind, and it has an intellect to choose, accept, or reject, or where ideas originate from. And here's the interesting part. Our subconscious mind, it cannot reject, and it must accept, and it cannot determine which is real or what is imagined. So what happens is this, when we think even just a thought of a negative idea that comes to our mind, let's say if our friend calls us out of nowhere, I remember calling my friend one time and I was laughing. And so as soon as I picked up the phone, I was like, ha, ha, I went like that because I was already laughing. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, Eve, are you crying? What's wrong with you?" And she started panicking, right? And so it's so easy for us to our mind to go into that negative thought. Like there wasn't even like a doubt of positive thought there. She just went into thinking that I was crying. But here's the problem. Our mind, our subconscious mind can't determine the difference which is real or imagined. So what happened is this. So let's say, for instance, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm anxious. What will happen is my subconscious mind will believe that, even though there's no real threat that is like existing where I am. So what will happen is this, my palms will get sweaty, my voice will crack a little. And so because my subconscious mind can't determine whether I'm actually in the state of danger or not. And that's why our results tell the truth. Our results is a reflection of what is going through our mind and what is programmed within our subconscious mind. And so here's where we are today. Our thoughts are usually dictated by everything else, social media, other people, Netflix podcast, and that's what feeds into our thoughts. Okay. And because that's what feeds into our thoughts, that's what gets impressed into our subconscious mind. Here's the tricky part, and this is where you guys need to understand this. You as an infant, okay, here's the problem. Our subconscious mind is wide open for programming. So that means everybody's ideas that is close to you, whether it's a parent or a relative, it is clearly influencing your subconscious mind. And what that means is that you are being programmed, your existing beliefs, your existing paradigm are controlled like that because when you're young, you have no ability to accept or reject any information that is around you. You have no ability to, like, that's why you know the language that you speak right now, right? So here's the problem. Your subconscious mind is getting pre-programmed by everybody that is around you unconsciously. And all those people that are programming you were also subconsciously programmed when they were also young by ideas of other people. So here's where the problem is. Are the ideas that you withhold with yourself, are they truly yours? If they were just programming from other people that didn't even know they were programmed also. Right? So that should bring that reality into question. Are the ideas about yourself, are the ideas and belief you have with money, are the ideas and belief that you have with the world really yours if they were just programmed onto you by people who didn't even know they were programmed as well? Right? So it's a really good question for you guys to ask, because then you can start challenging these ideas that you actually harness about the world, about money, and about yourself, and about your career, and everything that you're going through in life, right? So the money frequency. So this is you today. Everything that you consume creates your paradigm. And your paradigm essentially is like, your paradigm is a culture. Your paradigm is essentially how you think the world really works, right? And so because we are constantly consuming, that creates our paradigm, and it impresses within our subconscious mind. It dictates all outcomes for us, right? So I want to show this. We already have the knowledge and the power to accomplish almost anything we want. However, we have not developed a clear understanding of how paradigms are formed or how they control our habitual behavior. Therefore, we frequently do not do what we already know how to do. We have superior knowledge and inferior results, which causes confusion and frustration. And so a lot of people would go to school, they'd get a very high degree of education. However, the results, remember what I say about results, happiness, health, and wealth, don't really line up for what they want. Why? It's because of their paradigm. Some people could take a lot of real estate courses, hire amazing coaches, like let's say Danielle, right? They could hire amazing real estate coaches, work with amazing brokers and realtors. But the performance of the deal, or how well they hold on to the deal, if there's a market turbulence, is because of their paradigm. It's because of how they perceive money. It's how they perceive the stress. It's how they perceive the actual situation that they're in that will dictate the result, right? So the problem is not knowledge, it's the paradigm. Because no matter how much knowledge we take, you could get all accreditations possible. There are very, very, very accredited doctors out there. But I'm pretty sure they're probably making less than Danielle Chase on right now, right? And these doctors have studied for like 100 years at this point. However, it's because their paradigm dictates exactly how money will turn out. You see, what happens is this: if you give a child that, let's say, born in a very wealthy family, $1 million, right? And you give a child who's not born in a very wealthy family $1 million, the outcome will be different. Why? Again, it's because of their paradigm. It's how they see money, it's how they view money, right? So it's really important that we understand how paradigms work before we step into anything else, because it'll dictate every outcome that you step into. And this is why I am all for mindset. Everything that it is that you want to do can be done once you understand the limitations that you have, that creates that paradigm that hinders you to that absolute goal. Because what happens is this: you can be attracted and move into different directions because of potential return on investments. But if you don't have the right mindset in order for you to get through that, or to even acquire, to scale that business, or whatever it looks like, your paradigm again will pull you back in. And that's the sad reality, right? Who here feels like, based on what they know about life right now, who here feels like they should be way ahead in terms of life? Who here feels like they should be experiencing more out of life because of everything that, they studied? Okay. We have Harley Holmes. Okay. Sounds good. I don't know who else is. Okay. So in order for us to actually get somewhere within our lives, it's not enough to think positive. It's not enough to just say, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna feel really good today. You have to build a new self-image, because is what you're trying to feel good for. You are creating a new self-image. You cannot simply create out of your paradigm, because your paradigm already exists and is fixed in your subconscious mind. The only way to actually relieve yourself, and this is what they say about general curses, like generational curses. That's literally your paradigm. The fears that your parents have with money, fears that your family have with debt, the fears that your family, oh, you want to go into real estate. Oh my gosh, it's so risky. All those things. Those are paradigms. Those are other people's thoughts and ideas that they probably don't even own, but they created for you. And because you grew up within an environment, that became your reality. Your ability to make money, your ability to see if you can make that $50,000 a year that you make in 1 year, in 1 month, right? And that's all dependent on your paradigm. But if you want to actually really experience something different in life, and truthfully really experience it, not just the money, the happiness, the wealth, all of that are honestly byproducts of your creation of your new self, which is honestly the most beautiful thing, because you're not creating a potential return on investment as like a real estate investment. You're not creating in the outer world, because anything in the outer world are impermanent. Anything that you do in the outer world, no matter what it is, it'll always change. But once you change something within the inner world, which is creating that idea of who you are, your new self-image, that's when things start to change. Okay? Because how you see yourself right now are thoughts and ideas of everybody else based on how you see yourself on your paradigm. But creating your new self-image is totally up to you, and that's the most liberating part of this. Now, our paradigm program almost exclusively control over our habitual behavior, and most behavior is habitual. And so it's interesting because like even efforts, or sometimes people's habits, people's ability to do something will, how some, depending on which country you're from, there's some habits that might not be in an alignment of what it is that you want to do. And you might feel like you might be slower than the peers that have accomplished a certain level of what it is that you want to do. But again, it's because of your paradigm why you're not excelling as far as they are. It's because of your paradigm why you haven't bounced from a 7-figure portfolio to an 8-figure. It's because of your paradigm why you haven't bounced from 8 to 9-figure portfolio, right? So it's really important that we start questioning, what are the paradigms, what are these subconscious programming that exists in our mind that we think as what we are, that does not align to what we want to be. Now, your paradigm influences your perception, your use of time, your creativity, your effectiveness, productivity, and logic. Okay? Let's just say, for instance, your effectiveness. And this is one of the things that I stress out about the most, right? Who here feels that they are at their most effective 100% of the day, every single day? Every single moment of the day, who here feels that they're their most like effective? I don't know where anyone is. No? No? Okay. Okay. See, what happens is this. Effectiveness is I love this topic because you should be at your most effective when you are in line with your purpose. And I'll give you this example actually, Danielle. Well, you know when you watch sports, right? And you see basketball players and then all of a sudden they shoot the ball, right? From their unwavering focus, right? Soccer player when they get that ball in there, right? That's their effectiveness. When they know they're going to shoot something and it's going to go in. You see, our effectiveness should demonstrate itself when we are in an alignment of what it is that we're actually doing. Because then that's what makes you an all-star in your game. The ability to be consistent on what it is that you want to do and be as effective as possible. And if effectiveness is a problem, then we need to take a step back and say, what are my paradigm that is hindering my effectiveness in what I'm supposed to do? You see, we should be making a lot more money than what we usually are, but the reason that we're not is because of that effectiveness. Now imagine if you can turn every conversation you have into dollars. Imagine that, because that's absolutely possible. If your absolute desire is to do lots of business and make people believe in whatever it is that you're trying to do and work with them, right? Your effectiveness will demonstrate that, right? Your paradigm will control that effectiveness and that result will again show up within itself, okay? Productivity is the same and logic, okay? See, self-reflection, are you truly what or who you pretend to be? It's such a deep question if we really think about it. If you haven't sat down and actually recognized these pre-existing programming that you're walking around with, do you really know that that is who you are? You see, my name is Eve, but that's not even a name I chose. I came out and that was my name, apparently. Who here chose their name? I don't think anybody here chose their name, right? So this just shows that like the amount of how much we know ourselves is so low because we think into this existence of who we are as our physical body, our name. You know, Danielle is known for her blonde hair, right? But who Danielle is deeper, deeper than that. Her true self, her spiritual DNA, right? There's a lot more to it. And those higher faculties and those components is what makes Danielle, right? It's what makes Danielle to be able to do her business, right? It's not so much whether if Danielle changes her hair from blonde to black, it won't change what she knows, right? So our physical self does not dictate who we truly are. It's our thoughts. It's how we see ourselves. And again, it's the paradigm that controls that. Now, transform your life, guys. You guys are here to transform your life. Everybody's here trying to make money. Everybody's here who wants to be able to see the best version of themselves. Maybe somehow provide some kind of financial support to our loved ones, right? But the real change does not take place on the outer world. Because anything that takes place in the outer world are always going to be impermanent. That's why the real estate market goes like this. That's why the interest rates goes like this, right? That's why it's raining sometimes and it's shining sometimes. So let's actually focus on something that'll never change unless we want to change it, which is our mind. And the only thing that can change you, the only thing that can destroy you, the only thing that can hold you back is how you see yourself. Now imagine this. I remember I was speaking to one of my friends and he does motorcycle riding. And he told me he rides his motorcycle as fast as 380 kilometers per hour. Can you guys imagine that? 380 kilometers per hour on a motorcycle. He would have to think in his mind, I'm going to die, for him to die. He would have to consciously create that thought in his mind for him to die. But otherwise, he's in the zone. He is at his most effective at that moment in time, and nothing can kill him unless he wants to. You see, what happens is this. It started with his thought. Has anyone here ever said to themselves, you can do it? Has anyone done that? You can do it. Yeah, you can do it. We can get through the day. Have you guys ever thought who you is? Who is that you guys are chanting on? Exactly. We need to take awareness of who that is. Because if we're chanting that on our whole lives, even after this call, when you guys get into something as well, and you guys don't know what that is, what that who you is, and that you is controlling your life, controlling your outcome, keeping you in the driver's seat at your safest, right? That is the you that you need to know and learn, because that is the you that can transform your life. Now imagine the massive and permanent change you begin to improve these areas of their life. I want to give you guys this visualization. Imagine a waterfall and it's rushing, okay? As it comes down, and then you look at it and say, you know what? I don't want the waterfall to be gushing down like this. Would you build a dam where the water falls? Does that make sense, guys? Would you build a dam right there where the water falls? It wouldn't make sense. The current will destroy it. So what you need to do is you need to go up the stream as far down as possible and build a dam where you can still control the current. And once you build that dam back there, the changes are permanent. Our mind is the same thing. Our outcome is the same thing. You don't need that another vacation, third time in the row in the year for you to feel something different. You need to start up here, because the real change is up here. Because by the time you come back from that vacation, you're going to feel like crap again, because you never truly fix the actual problem. And the problem is you lacking self-awareness of the paradigm that controls your outcome. And so no matter how many times you dye your hair, how many times you go on a trip, you're always going to come back to that feeling that you can never change unless, again, you transform your life. Okay? Now, self-image and potential. Develop a beautiful image of yourself. And I mean that truly, because a lot of us can't even think the time to see beauty in ourselves, because we're so busy creating in the outer world that we are losing the value of the beauty that we have within ourselves, that we can create for ourselves. Study and gain the understanding of that true potential, which is your real potential. Who is it that you want to be? My mentor asked me once, he says, Eve, how do you envision your future? And I started envisioning, I'm like, I'd be traveling the world for my fun, raising capital from like very heavy network and net worth individuals. And then he says to me, so if you visualize yourself traveling a lot, and that's what you're really thinking of, why are you investing so much time buying shoes and purses if that's not part of your future? So because I was able to gain a different understanding of what it is that I truly wanted, I literally had this reflection to myself that's like, I have not been making decisions based on what I truly want. I've been making decisions on what I feel like it's the right thing to do at this time, which means I just become a byproduct of my environment. And most of us are reacting to life. 99% of the population is reacting to life. They are waking up and saying, what is it today's going to look like? And they're going to go through their list. And if their list gets stuck somewhere, they're going to be like, oh shit. And they're going to go and drive somewhere. They get stuck somewhere and they're going to be like, oh shit. That's what it means to be a byproduct of life. Even though you are not a byproduct, you are actually a creator of your life. You're a creator of that self-image. You are far beyond greater than being a byproduct of your circumstances. Because if you are a creator of your circumstances, none of these things, none of the interest rate hikes will ever touch you, right? So I actually want to take you guys here, because this within itself is actually I would say like an hour long presentation, but I do my lectures at Saturday at 10:30 in the morning. So if you guys like these talks, I actually talk a lot about abundance. I talk a lot about knowing these paradigms, how to break these paradigms, how to see yourself differently. Because at the end of the day, these are these are the real changes that you need to make within yourself, so that whatever it is that you step into, if it is real estate investing, if it is, buying multifamilies or whatnot, it is not the strategy of which that's going to make you successful. It is your attitude throughout the whole thing. And I'm sure Danielle can attest to that. It's not the strategy, it's you. It is how well can you put yourself together to do something. Okay. And so I want to walk you guys through this chart. This is on the higher scale. Okay, there's the love side, and then the lower scale is fear. Okay. You cannot get into business and you are vibrating very low on fear. There is no way anything can come to fruition if you are vibrating very low on the fear scale. There is no way you can gain more money than what you are already experiencing if you have fear. Because here's what happens. The universe thinks you're dead. That's why money's not coming into your door. That's why you're not getting as much cash flow, because you are vibrating in a low frequency of fear. You see, at the bottom here, death is the lowest vibration. It's like almost zero. It's like zero. Third dimension is the complicated dimension. This is where a lot of these third dimensional narrative that exist, who's right, who's wrong, a lot of these perspective driven controversies, right? But where we are is within the fourth dimension. Okay. Most of the people, if you look at them, they talk to you in the street. Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, that's like a state of neutrality. They don't really know exactly how they're feeling. But here's the thing. Our purpose is to transcend consciously. Why do we need to transcend consciously? Because I'm sure you guys know, if you put it out in the universe, you will get it. If the moment you think about something, you will receive it. That is why you guys are able to achieve what you are able to achieve at this point. Now, with the right tailoring of exactly what it is that you want to accomplish, of what it is you want to desire out of life, and continue that conscious transcendence from it, you need to find your purpose. And that purpose is what is going to guide you. And that when you are in an alignment of that purpose, everything comes easily. I promise you that everything comes easily. The second I tapped into my purpose, just people showed out of nowhere. I met amazing people. I met, I've met like very high net worth people that I didn't even think that I was going to be in the same room with, but it was because I stepped in with that purpose of what it is that I truly wanted. We need to start thinking of what it is that is our purpose. There's a reason why we are here on earth. And there's a reason why we are living through this journey. And we all have this purpose in our life. And when you actually start thinking about that and you step into that with a passion, you see this next part of this conscious transcendence is stepping out with a passion. Everything good will be delivered to you. Everything here exists in the higher vibration. Everything on the lower vibration is where you get bad luck. Accidents are not real accidents. Accidents happen because you're in a low vibration. Accidents don't just happen to like random people, right? It is because of your vibration. You see, even pain, even cold, even any type of sickness, those things happen when you don't know how to listen to your body because you have been running your body all the way through for the purpose of making money. And if we are not mindful of ourselves, we're not listening to our body, we're not listening to our intuition, we're not sharpening our higher faculties. This is where you can easily go down this, where even though you're making a lot of money, you could be in a very low vibration because money is the easiest thing to make in this life. There are very dumb people out there making a lot more money than all of us collectively. And you guys believe that, right? But here's the problem. You don't want to be one of those people that are just making money. You want the complete package. You want to have happy relationships, good health. You don't want to be 300 pounds and making $1 million, $2 million a year, and you run your body through the ground, right? You don't want to be making $2-3 million a year, but you have no friends or you have no family, right? You see, what happens is when you step into your purpose, none of that will lack. When you actually study the mind and you study what it is that you're supposed to do in this time of your life, all the opportunities, money, being in the right rooms, those are just byproducts. Byproducts, I tell you, of what it truly means to be in line with your purpose. You would be flying like Michael. I don't even know if Michael's still here. Is Michael still here? Or he left? Michael, it seems like to be a big heavy hitter, right, Richard?
Yeah, he's out there. He has to step out real quick, yeah. But he's definitely, I feel you on that for sure.
Right? Michael is in synchronicity of his purpose. So is Danielle, right? Danielle stepped into this realm of her coaching. And so because she stepped into this purpose with a passion, she's doing a lot of amazing speaking events since I've met her, right? And that's a receipt. These are receipts. These are receipts of what it looks like to step into your purpose. And we have to really start thinking about this, guys, because we are not made in this universe to just be zombies. Like I think about it this way. When you create land in Sims and then you put in another land, and all of a sudden these new characters spawn to just start to walk the land? Don't be like those. Be the creator. Don't just exist in the matrix. Because there's a reason why you have intellect. There's a reason why there's a difference between us and animals, is because we have these higher faculties. We have the ability to choose. We have the ability to create and pursue something, right? And so, again, for me, my purpose is to get this message out. And honestly, I'm excited to announce, and this is my first time announcing it. By next year, I'm going to be doing a lot more guest speaking events, and we're looking to fill the rooms with like over 1,000 people per space. I'm going to be working with a very, very special person as well that I don't know if you guys know him, but Richard might know him. He produced one of Kanye West's album. He's also in the space of consciousness. So we're going to be sharing the stage together because we are in total alignment of conscious transcendence. And I'm truly humbled to be in that type of space with a lot of these people. I met one of my good friends now. Her name is Dr. Deb. She is good friends with Tony Robbins as well. So a lot of these big things, honestly, I didn't even think I was going to get into this space, honestly, because I was all about real estate and whatnot, but for me, when I learned how healing this process is, number one, and that's just the step one, healing and allowing yourself to cut off that generational curse, because the generational curse is real. The generational curse is how we see ourselves, how we see money. If your parents are afraid of getting into debt, and now you become afraid of getting into debt, that is the generational curse that you are carrying. And subconsciously, you will be imprinting that into your children. And if we truly want to change the world, we have to start within. Because the only corner in this world that we can truly change is ourselves. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this quote. You can only love another person as much as you love yourself. You can only know another person as much as you know yourself. If you guys want to do business, however much money is involved in that business, to truly know who you're truly working with, you have to really know yourself. And that's the whole journey that I'd like to take you guys on. So I just want to conclude and say you already have the knowledge and power to achieve most things. Nothing is lacking. Your success is not dependent on a business partner. Your success is not dependent on a family, friend, or potential money that you need. You have everything. You have the knowledge and power to do anything that you want right now. And if there is anything more that you want, you better believe it will be provided to you because it always been. And you need to develop a clear understanding of how paradigms are formed and how they control your habitual behavior. Be mindful of what paradigms are now that you guys are consciously aware on this. And once you improve these areas on your life, start changing these beliefs, existing beliefs about yourself, about money, about investing, about how you see cash flow. You'll see these significant changes in your life. Okay? And also abundance. I just want to go into that. I did one of my lectures, which is actually in form of abundance. We think abundance only come in one way. We think abundance only is monetary gains. But there's so many forms of abundance that it could come in. Abundance could be by way of, just expressing someone who's giving you value just by where their heart is at and where they are. You know what I mean? Like trading. And there's many forms of abundance. Sometimes we limit ourselves. Oh, I'm very lacking because I don't have X. I don't have this much money in my bank account. I don't have this portfolio. So we operate even our dreams from a place of lack because we feel like we don't have enough. Then obviously you're going to only get what you're really thinking of. You're never going to have enough if you never think more than what you want for yourself, right? So, if you guys want to get the link for the Saturday morning 10:30 lectures, it's for free. I have nothing to sell. I honestly just like to talk about this. I could talk your ear off about this all day. And I actually decreased my call because my call was more in frequency. But now it's only going to be once a week on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. If you guys click me a follow on Instagram and DM me Conscious Leaders, I'll get my assistant to send you guys the Zoom link for our presentations, because my heart is truly to help people see themselves better. Because like I said, for me, I learn a lot from this process, and for me, it's healing. And I know that the more I change myself and the more I learn this as well, the more people can also learn themselves, and we can actually have this collective consciousness in transcendence. And I truly believe that the power is within all of us. We just need to see that full potential. And yeah, I really appreciate Richard for allowing me to share this message in the platform. I believe that everybody deserves what they want to get out of life, but just don't be cheap on finding what that is, because there's no limitation on what it is that you want to accomplish. The only limitation is what you put forth into yourself. So, yeah, thank you guys.
Amazing, amazing. And yeah, I like how you really went deep into that, and I'm all about this as well. And I'm sure Danielle, she's gonna be speaking as well. She's all about this as well. As she's clapping already, virtual clapping, virtual clapping. Yeah, so yeah, like amazing, Eve. I anyone please connect with her. Joan said that was awesome. Connect with her. Just with time, I'd love to get into questions, but with time, we got to get into our final speaker for the day. And Nick Regina is rescheduled to next session. But we have our headliner, who was originally the headliner, from the jump, because when submitting her speaker form, she just said she wanted to share everything. Pretty much, she's sharing her 20 plus years of experience with us within the next 30 minutes. So Danielle Chazon, Danielle, the mic is yours. Thank you and welcome. Appreciate you being a part of Invest for Cashflow.
Hello, everybody. What a great presentation, Eve. And everybody is just like soaking it up. So if you don't mind, Eve, put your email address in the chat box there, or the best way to connect with you to maybe get the slides if you're open to sharing the slides, because that would be awesome. Yeah.
No, you have to take me with the slides, Danielle.
What's
I
that?
have to come with you. I have to come with the slides. So when I show it, I have to come.
So listen, guys, if you want to connect with Eve, she did say the best way is Instagram. So send her a DM on Instagram. Conscious Leaders will get you more information about her things. So about her lectures on Saturday morning. So make sure you reach out for that. And yeah, you can just connect with her on Instagram. So having said that, you might have to buy her a coffee maybe for the slides. I'm just saying. Or a bottle
it has to be dinner because I have a higher self-image now, guys.
I love that. I love that. You got to practice what you preach, guys. You do. Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I didn't, yes. So, Richard here sent a form for us to fill out, and he said, what do you want to talk about? And I just put a bunch of ideas on there, and he thought I was going to like hit all of that in a half an hour. And that's probably not going to happen because it's a lot to unpack. But the one thing we did talk about that there's a lot of buzz about right now is JV partnerships. And if we are going to make money in real estate, if nothing else is apparent to you guys, is that we need to partner with people in order to scale and in order to do things. And especially if you Maybe you have the money, but you don't have the time because you're a high net worth earner and you're going out there every day and you're working, 8, 10, 12-hour days, maybe 6 days a week. Like high net worth earners are on salary and they do their 8 hours. They're commuting maybe an hour each way, and then they're doing extra work at home. There's just no time left to invest. And so maybe you've got the money, but not the time because you're that person. Or maybe you've got the time and the expertise, but not the money, which is some other people like us out there who are the working partners, right? And so we go out there and we're counting the payment, we're finding the deals like Michael, right? He sees the deals, he knows how to put them together. And so you pair those up and then now you've got something beautiful happening. So you really need to really understand how to find those JV partners and how to vet them, because it has been prevalent more than ever. JV partnerships can go sour, and when they go south, it can really hurt. So you don't want to get caught up in that. It is really important to do the work beforehand and be proactive and do the work to find out who they are and what they're all about, to make sure it's going to be a good partnership and a healthy partnership. Because just because somebody can fill the gap for you, whatever whatever the weakest link is that you have, and you find a partner to fill that gap, that doesn't mean they're the right partner because they bring that skill or the money or the knowledge. There is way more to it than that, to having a great partner. So we're going to talk a little bit about JV partnerships and contracts and how you can make them work really well. I'm going to share my slides. Now, my slides I was looking at doing, and I love doing fireside chats. And so I do encourage you guys to put your information or any questions that you have in the chat box. And you could even unlock or unmute, I should say, in order to jump in and ask your questions so we can have a conversation. But really, Richard and I are going to talk a little bit about partnerships here and help get you some more information so that you can be really in a good space in order to vet. So first thing is first, man, we're coming up onto 3 hours. I just want to say congrats to every single one of you guys who are here hanging on and wanting to learn. I know that there was some of you guys when Eve was saying, what are you here for? I'm here to learn. I'm here to network. Kish said he's here to learn. Awusu wanted to find out about taxes. Harley was all about networking with experts, and you guys are doing the right thing in order to get there, and you're doing the time. So congrats to all of you guys, because education is what separates the sophisticated investor from the average investor. And that includes myself, guys. When I went through my journey, I invested 2 years of my life to learn about everything in real estate, or I shouldn't say everything I could in that time before I actually started investing. So really important. So what are we going to talk about today? I mentioned it already. JV partnerships. We'll touch a little bit maybe on how it differentiates from business partnerships or shareholder agreements. I know there's a lot of confusion about that. The importance of contracts and how to use them. Why do we use them? And of course, anything that you guys want to chat about. And this is what I love about fireside chats, is that we can open up the floor and you guys ask the questions. And that way, because if it's relevant to you, it's relevant to somebody else in the room. And then that way we can really touch on what's going on in your life and what do you need at that time. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of time at the end to talk about that and open up the floor here. All right, so a little bit about me. If you don't know me, I've been a real estate investor for over 2 decades now. I'm the founder and CEO of Strategic Success, which is our coaching program. We bring in all kinds of people, from the novice real estate investor to an advanced real estate investor. We have different levels of our coaching program. So when you come in, we figure out where you should be, because we don't believe in giving you an advanced program when you're not ready for that and waste your money. So the other thing we do too is business coaching, which, has just been amazing, the spinoff to the real estate coaching. So we are real estate and business coaches. I see my business partner jumped on the call here to support me. So thank you, Corey McKinnon, for jumping on. It's always cool to see you on there. It's always good to know you got people in your corner, right, guys? I vetted Corey. We're going to talk about, vetting your business partners. It'd be interesting even to get Corey's perspective, but I will tell you guys, I did for 6 years. So funny. Yeah. I definitely knew Corey for a long time before approaching him to work together and having that conversation. And it wasn't one conversation, guys, it was many conversations before we got there. But we'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, I'm a mother of three kids. They're pretty amazing. They make me look good as a parent. And I live just on the west side of the GTA in Milton, Ontario. But I'm an East Coast girl, so I'm a small country girl at heart. But I say I've been urbanized now, so here we are. I don't think I could go back. Always having a disclaimer, guys. I have to do this, otherwise my lawyers would kill me. You know, I'm not a lawyer, accountant, appraiser, economist, or any other designated professional. At the end of the day, this is my take on my experience and my knowledge, my learning, my trainings, and my mentors, everything that I've taken in. I just regurgitate it back. There's nothing new here I'm going to teach you that you haven't heard elsewhere. I'm just going to maybe package it, hopefully in a way that you'll understand. This is strictly for informational, educational purpose only. Everybody's situation is different, so you really need to contact your own professionals when making financial or business decisions, okay? These decisions going into real estate are like incredibly big. So don't do it without having your professional team behind you. All right, so let's talk about partnerships. Richard, what do we want to know about partnerships? The biggest thing I think that people ask is like, what's the difference between a joint venture and a shareholder agreement? What's the difference? And I think we touched on this a little bit on our Instagram live there. Hey, Richard, we actually had a really good conversation. So what I'm going to tell you guys is this. Ultimately, when you go into a JV agreement, or if you go into a business arrangement where you create an entity and you have a shareholder agreement with your business partner, the agreements themselves are very, very, very similar. There's very little that's different. In the shareholder agreement, there is a little bit pertaining to the business. However, having said, because you've got directors and whatnot. So, but what it comes down to, though, is the meat and the bones as to how are we going to handle any situation in our partnership. And so the JV agreement and the shareholder agreement are very different, but at the same time, they're similar. The biggest way that I can describe it to you guys is a joint venture agreement is based on a specific project or a specific deal, and it's limited to that. And so you have the same kind of protection in that agreement, but it's all centered around this one deal. And then you have certain things in the agreement that are going to help you for dispute resolution. So people get into contracts wanting to protect themselves, and if things go sideways and I want to win in court and all this and that. I'm going to talk about contracts in a minute, but really what we want to do is look at that as dispute resolution mechanisms. So 2 parts to the contract. Number 1 is, what are the terms of the deal that we made together? Like, what did we agree to? And so the 4 corners of the piece of paper of the agreement is going to be everything that you guys agreed to. And primarily is what's the location of the agreement or the project, who's putting in what are the expectations for each partner, what happens if one partner can't perform, what happens if one partner dies. All of these things get taken care of in the agreement, so that if we're not sure how to handle a certain situation, you go to the agreement. Now, with a shareholder agreement, you have all of that in there, but it's more like a marriage, because now you're intertwining all kinds of things. You're intertwining multiple projects, you're doing multiple tasks. It's a lot more complex when you're doing more projects and it's all on a shareholder agreement. You create this entity, because here's the difference. On a JV agreement, once the deal is done, you can walk away. With a shareholder agreement, a business partner can say, you know what? I don't want to work anymore, but I'm going to stay in the business. Because what people don't understand is you can't fire a shareholder. A shareholder owns shares of the business. It's an asset. You can't just take something away from somebody when they own something. It's just like you can't take their house away from them when they own it. So like a business, you just can't take that away. So you can't fire a shareholder. And because you have all kinds of stuff going on in there, it's not going to just stop functioning and stop operating. So what do you do with that person? So I look at JV agreements like a dating situation. So you get to date each other. So you get to test the waters, and you should absolutely do JV, at least one JV with a potential business partner before you go into a shareholder agreement. And why? Because if you go into business with a business partner and you've never vetted them, you've never worked with them, you've never learned what it's like to work with them and whether or not you're fully in alignment. So the JV agreement allows you to test the waters, work with them, and I highly recommend that you do JVs with them until you have a conflict, because you don't know how you're going to survive until there's conflict, because everybody gets along great as long as everybody's making money and life is good. So you really get to get challenged when you have a disagreement on something. And so it's really important that you test the waters with that. So here are the things, what's important when it comes to vetting your JV partner. Everybody looks at, actually, let me stop here for a second. Richard, was there any questions that anybody had about this? Does anybody have any questions? The difference between a joint venture or shareholder? Eve, if you want to just come off. Yeah, you can.
I don't have a question, but I just want to mention it's really important that you bring in a third party, let's say like Danielle or Corey, to look over a joint venture agreement if you are going into one with an investor partner. Always have a third party that is experienced within the realm of real estate to look at whether it's a joint venture agreement or a shareholder agreement, because it's really good to challenge those pre-existing. Because at the end of the day, like, it looks good in the beginning when everybody's excited and everybody's like, oh my gosh. But then it's really like, if you have a third party, like let's say for instance, like Danielle, like I'm pretty sure they'll even just help you out, and like kind of if that is just one small thing that you do need. It's really important that someone challenges whatever is written on there. And I mean it in the outskirt of like a lawyer, right? Because a lawyer a lawyer might not have the expertise that they have over like the 26 years of experience together combined. So if you are going into a deal that is with a joint venture agreement, let's say you are an existing group or coaching program or whatnot, and they have these templates, it's really important to have somebody else vet those, especially having a third party that is not involved in the deal. Again, that is not involved in the deal, that will give you that unbiased opinion of what it is that you need to look for. So that's just one thing that I wanted to share out there.
I appreciate that, Eve. And that is a good, solid point there, guys. When you're doing, number one, don't use a contract off Google. Okay, I'm just telling you, because it is so important. Contracts are how you protect your business. Contracts are how you protect your business.
You mean I can't use ChatGPT? What? Oh my gosh, Danielle.
People are using, I'll tell you what, I am not against ChatGPT. And guys, if you're not on ChatGPT, you need to be. ChatGPT is freaking amazing. However, I have 3 words that I say, I think, on every single call. If you've seen me present before, you've heard me say it, because at some point this always shows up when I'm presenting. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. I will say that till the day I die. And so you're going to trust but verify your professionals. You're going to trust but verify your potential partner. And you're going to trust but verify ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT is great to kind of shortcut things, but it is not great to be actually making business decisions on. So it will give you some idea and some information that you need in order to get started and to lead you in the right direction. But do not write a contract on ChatGPT, especially if you've never done a contract like this before. So what you want to do is, and Eve, I appreciate you, wanting to send people my way, and I'm always happy to review something and give my 2 cents. Always. I will always share and pour into people. However, having said that, I will always recommend people to take a contract to a lawyer, a proper lawyer, just like realtors. And I vented earlier, realtors are not all created equal. Guess what? Lawyers are also not all created equal. And you have to understand, when you're dealing with realtors, you're going to deal with a residential realtor for a residential property. You're going to go to a commercial realtor for commercial property, and you're going to go to a multifamily specialist for multifamily property. Lawyers are the same. I can't tell you how many times so many people are trying to get a corporate contract drafted from a real estate lawyer, and they don't understand it. And so you have to make sure you go to a corporate lawyer who does these every day in and out, and they understand what this is all about. Now, if you can get a corporate lawyer who understands real estate, that's even better. So it's really important to get, like, I can give you my 2 cents, but ultimately you want to dive deep and you want a lawyer to ask those questions to make sure all of those components are important. Jenny, go ahead, honey, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
So yeah, thank you for bringing the points about doing the contract. Sorry, 1 second, Hudson. So I have experience in investing, and I've done a lot of the investing on my own. But to your point, like I want to scale up, so I'm looking at doing a partnership with a group of people who are significantly more experienced than I am, as well as owns a lot more than I do. So one of the particular property, it's for a multi-unit building, and so I would own about maybe 10% or so of the building. And so on the contract, one of it is about like like if somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do,
Performance. Yeah.
performance, exactly.
Yeah.
And but I don't know if this is something that's normal or not, because they're like, oh, if they feel that it's not this person is not performing, that they can essentially buy back your shares for 105% of what you purchased it for. But I'm like, but that sounds so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a way that it's not, like, are most very subjective like that, or?
Yeah, so there's what's on paper, and then there's the interpretation of what's on paper. So this is the problem with contracts. You need to make sure. Hi, Hudson, by the way. Where is he? Let's say hi. Hi, buddy.
Hi.
So ultimately, you want to make sure that again, I'm going to tell you right now, it depends on the wording of the clause, whether or not it can be enforceable, how it's going to be. Like, it is subjective. So who gets to decide, if they're not performing? And 105%, is that what you want? They're going to buy you back at 105%. That's a bigger deal. So how long is is it 105% after year 4 or year 5? And now you've only made, if it's at year 5, you made 1% on your money year over year. And that's not going to work for me. So I would personally tear that apart and dig deeper into that, because I'm not sure that I would be happy with that. But I'm not a lawyer. And again, I haven't read the contract. So I'm going to assume this is a GPLP structure, is it? Yeah. So just make sure you bring it to a third party, just like you said, bring it to a third party lawyer that can take a look at it, and just make sure that everything's kind of kosher. A lot of contracts, guys, are weighted one way or the other. And those are not the contracts. Like, and I'm going to offer to you guys, a free cheat sheet when it comes to joint ventures and red flags. And one of the things is, like, honestly, if it's a heavily weighted contract to the other side, I would have that as a red flag. Because if they're not fair in the contract, how are they going to be fair during the project? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So really pay attention to that. It's something that you want to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position where you have no control. At 10%, you have no control, by the way. So, you're just really at the mercy of whatever is written on paper, and anything that can be taken differently. So you really, like, again, those subjective clauses, you really got to be careful about. And they're putting that in, they're putting that in there for them, for their protection, but where's your protection? Right? So take a look at that. I haven't seen it, so I can't really dive deep into it, but the best advice I could give to you is get a third party to take a look at it, your own lawyer. And like, they're relatively fair about doing a contract review, because ultimately they want to be able to protect you. I mean, at the end of the day, lawyers want to make money, but they also want to take care of the client.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty disappointed with the lawyer that I've used so far, because I was like, oh, here's the gist of what we've negotiated. Can you just verify if this really exists in the contract? And I literally got a bullet point to point of, like, shareholder one does this, shareholder, like, gets whatever, but in a minuscule detail, but without saying, does this actually cover what was actually negotiated?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. There's a comment about GPT. I could have gotten that
It
from
may have been.
ChatGPT.
I'm just gonna say it may have been. You know what? I'm telling you, it's a little bit scary right now with AI. But what I would do is this. It's unfortunate to hear that. Push back. And one of the questions you can say is, okay, that's great. Thank you for that information. You catch more honey with bees with honey, by the way. So always be sweet and nice and kind. And say, you know what? I appreciate you looking over this contract. Thank you so much. In your opinion, is this an investment that you would do?
So, and then so I did something similar like that, and I'm like, well, thank you so much, but I really need to know. I need your advice on how do I best protect myself from
Yeah.
these particular two clauses. One is the one I mentioned, and another one about being basically personally liable for like the property. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, but if I own such a small ownership of it,
Yeah.
and basically, I don't know if that there's a different way
That's a problem.
around it.
Yeah.
So, and then they were like, oh, I got it a roundabout, and it was like just that it was $1,500 already.
Yeah, that's a problem. That is a big problem. So you don't have the right lawyer. Number one is you want to make sure not all lawyers deal with GPLP structures and contracts. And so you need to make sure you got a real estate lawyer who understands these contracts. And just because they're a real estate lawyer, guys, I'm telling you right now, just because they say they do real estate does not mean they understand this creative side of real estate. Most real estate lawyers, just like most realtors deal with retail transactions. You have a home buyer upsizing, downsizing, buying their new home for the first time. They're just doing simple transactions. And then it goes to a realtor, the real estate lawyers, rather. The real estate lawyers, they just push the paper and get it through and make sure it gets registered on title and that all the mortgage documents are done. This is very transactional, but you have these realtors and these real estate realtors and these real estate lawyers that, you know, people think overarching, they understand everything. Real estate is an industry. And what that means is it's complex. There's many different arms of that industry. So when you're doing something that's very niche, Jenny, in larger projects, that's a GPLP structure, you really need to make sure you're dealing with somebody who actually understands it and isn't scared to. For me, my professionals need to be willing to take the time to explain. If you're going to charge me $1,500, you better freaking answer my questions and teach me on what I need to know. Right? And that's how I grow. That's how I grow as an investor. If you take time with me teaching me, then my job is going to be easier moving forward. And I'm going to be an easier client for you moving forward. And there's some professionals that get that and understand that. And so that's the relationship you want to start building, right? Like I have my paralegal. I don't know everything, guys. Like, you know, we're always learning. And I have my paralegal. Every now and then I have a question. I call her up and she's like, yep, she teaches me. And then that way I'm a better on my end dealing with stuff when I'm pushing paper out to her and I say I got this problem with this. She doesn't have to explain everything to me because I'm constantly learning and she's helping me in that. And so if you have a lawyer that doesn't have time to explain things to you, he's just very transactional and just wants to, like, you know, oh, here's the deal, wash his hands, move on to the next. And either that or he doesn't have the time, or maybe he doesn't care, maybe he's tired. Maybe he's just not interested in GPLP structures or contracts and he'd rather be doing something else. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter, but you need to decide for yourself if that's the person for you, right? And so, man, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's a tough one.
I've already invested that much. I feel that if I gave it to another lawyer, it's gonna like rack up again. But then again, this is not like, I feel like they're really missing the point here. It could have been like a high level, like, hey, before I review it, do you have this? Just more of a guidance versus, you know, GPT spit out of like bullet points.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of investments out there. A lot of ways to invest out there. If your gut is telling you no, I would listen to that. Like if there's something that you're not comfortable with, you don't need to be investing in anything you're not comfortable in. And it sounds to me these are legitimate flags, red flags. So, you know, and if you, to ACE, the AC investor, I think I said that right, ACE investor or AC investor, I would absolutely agree with him as far as like, reaching out to friends in the industry, other people who've done GPLP structures. A lot of these agreements, by the way, are going to be standard agreements. There's going to be standard clauses in there. And then what happens is they're going to embed in certain clauses and word them just slightly differently in their favor. So you got to be really savvy when it comes to these if you're going to be looking at them yourself, right? But they should be all typical clauses for the most part. It's always the beginning clauses of a contract that really is the guts of the terms of what you're doing. And then the rest are all just standard clauses. So get a lawyer that can absolutely tell you the difference between a standard clause and what's not. Yeah. Oh, it's you, Eve. Okay, I didn't know. That's funny. All right. Yeah. But anyway, she's 100% right. Just make sure you have friends in the industry to reach out to and lean on for support. And that's why you get into these rooms to meet people. I also want to say thanks, Corey. Corey mentioned we do have a lawyer we can refer you to for a consult. It's a lot cheaper than that $1,500. So at the end of the day, we could, if you want to DM me, shoot me a message on Instagram. I'll give you my information in a minute. But you can shoot me a DM and I'll share that contact information with you. And you can reach out to him and just ask him, how much would it cost to do a consult? He's really affordable and he does all of this stuff. Like he's a big player. So he does this all the time.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Corey. Appreciate that. Okay. So, all right. So that's on JVs. So before we go into contracts, kind of went there. So let's talk about contracts real quick. What's the importance of contracts, using contracts in your business? And I mentioned it before, obviously dealing with contracts in your business, that is how you're going to protect your business. Because what happens is when you go into business and you don't have a contract, picture and imagine this. I'm talking with my potential business partner, Corey McKinnon here, and I'm talking to him and we're going back and forth. We're negotiating how we're going to do business together. Have you ever negotiated before, Richard? When you're negotiating, do you say, okay, this is what I want? And then I say, this is what I want. And we go, yeah, sure, no problem. And then we just say, this is what we want. Or do we go back and forth with it a few times?
That's an agreement. Yeah. You got to go back and forth until you come to the common ground where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm happy, right?
Awesome.
Win-win.
Win-win. Then you fast forward 3 years. And 3 years goes by, your brain gets a little bit foggy. You start to get busy in your business. And then all of a sudden things start going sideways. And then I go to Corey, Corey, this happened. So we're going to have to do this. There's a cash call. You said it was 60. I said it was 40. So you got to put in 60%. I got to put in 40. And Corey goes, no, wait a minute. It was 60-40 in my direction. Well, Corey remembers maybe a conversation when he was asking for 60. Maybe we decided on 50-50. But at some point in the negotiation back and forth, I said this and he said that. And now I'm remembering this is what I want, because we're always going to remember what we wanted first. We're never going to remember what we negotiated. And I shouldn't say never, but typically we'll always remember what we wanted. And so a lot of times it's just a miscommunication. Now, try to compromise with somebody when you're in conflict. It's really difficult. And try to write a JV agreement or shareholder agreement when you're in conflict is difficult. So things start going sideways. Then you go, oh yeah, right. You know what? Okay, let's get it on paper now. Let's figure this out so that we don't have any problems moving forward. Well, guess what? Now we're not seeing eye to eye. So you're not going to get it on paper. So get it on paper before, when things are good and fresh in your mind, and you just write down the terms. And there's no issue putting it on paper. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in a potential partnership with somebody and you're having that discussion, and they go, oh, why do we need the contract? No, it's okay. Don't even bother. I don't want to pay the $1,500 for a contract. I don't want to pay the $1,800 because, why waste that money? That's a red flag. That's a red flag, because they should want it, because if you want the contract, they should want it too, because then you're in alignment, right? Oh, by the way, and I wanted to talk about this, the importance of what are you looking for in a JV partner? People look for skill, people look for knowledge, experience, time, money, all kinds of that doesn't matter. That does not matter. What matters is core values need to be aligned, goals need to be aligned, ethical compass, all of that needs to be aligned. And what happens with integrity and communication. So when all of that is aligned, the rest you can teach or you can get somewhere else. And so it's really important. Of course, they have to bring something to the table that you don't have and vice versa. But if you don't have all of those core, everything Eve talked about, if you don't have the core values, if you don't have the communication, if you don't have integrity, the rest of it isn't going to matter. It's going to fall apart, right? I would rather take somebody and be in alignment with them at the core values and then teach them what they need to know. And I know that we're going to have a great partnership because we communicate, we can get to where we need to go when we're in conflict. That's the hard part, right? Get on paper the terms of the contract, of the agreement, okay? And if somebody says they don't want to put it on paper, that is a red flag. It is an absolute red flag because that means they're reactive. They don't care about protecting the business. They don't understand they don't understand the importance of doing contracts. And by the way, what is the importance of doing contracts? Is it to win in court? Is that why people do contracts? Yeah, most of them. Probably more than 95% of people who draft up a contract because they don't want to lose in court. That's not why you draft up a contract, guys. You draft up the contract. That is your go-to for dispute resolution. You go to the contract to avoid court. You draft the contract to avoid court. If you're going to court, number one, you're looking at it wrong. Number two, if you go to court, a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of mental bandwidth spent. You're going to have so much missed opportunity. You're going to have sleepless nights. You're going to be stressed. You're going to lose money. You're going to be making emotional decisions, which is really hard. You don't want any of that to happen. And so you want to make sure that the contracts are drafted so that it's a win-win. It's got to be fair for everyone. It's got to be very clear. And that's how you protect your business. Because when things start going sideways, I say to Richard, okay, Richard, this isn't going so well. Like, okay, we have a problem here. What does the contract say? How do we deal with this? Okay, so Richard has the things like, Danielle, there's non-performance. You're not doing your job. Okay, so then what is the contract say? If I'm not doing my job, how do we deal with that? Just like Jenny said, right? If there's non-performance, how do we deal with that? Maybe there's an escape clause. Like she said that, I don't know that I would agree to that, but maybe there's an escape clause, right? And so these are the things that, oh, by the way, Jenny, that buyback, is it for the person that's non-performing or is it for everyone else? Like that's something else you need to understand because that buyback clause could have been for the person that's non-performing, which is why it's 105% and there's a bit of a penalty there. Anyway, yeah, so.
It's for the person that's non-performing.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's for the one that's not performing.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
I'm like, well, like to your point, like what if it's like 5 years down and the relations have gone bad and they subjectively say, hey, you're not performing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You got to see like who gets to decide that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Richard says, okay, you're non-performing. Okay, then what's the escape clause? Like maybe I'm supposed to be property managing and I'm not doing that now. What is the how do we settle that? So ultimately, like in my JV agreements for non-performance, then that person is responsible for hiring and making sure, like if there's a property manager, they're not doing their job, we either fire them, or if it's a working partner, that is a property manager, well then now out of their cut of the property is the cost of property manager. So we can hire somebody in and it comes off of them because that's something they were supposed to do, right? And so when you can then keep the partnership intact because they agreed to that. They said, okay, well, if I can't perform, if I can't do my duties anymore because I get sick or I get hit by a bus and I'm, in a hospital, in a coma.
I think she froze, but she was going in. Danielle, yeah, I think she's still logged in here. She's still here. Am I frozen or is she frozen? I don't know. Okay, there we go. You're back.
Oh.
You're back. Okay.
Oh no, I was frozen. I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that's how you protect your company, guys. Protect your partnerships and protect from a lot of stress, anxiety, and lost time, money. Like you don't want to be battling with a JV partner. You just don't want or a business partner. You don't want it to go south. So Make sure you hire the right people to help you in that case. It always has to be fair and a win-win. And if your business partner is fair back with you and creating that win-win, then guess what? They're good people to be in business with, right? So, all right. I know we're at 9:02 here, so I just want to be mindful of everybody's time. It's 9 o'clock. We're supposed to end. I know we were going over, all the speakers were over. But I want to be mindful for everybody's time here, Richard. So I'm just going to give you my final slides here. A couple of announcements that I had. We do have a London property tour coming up on Saturday. If you're interested in that, or any of our other events, we got a free informational webinar similar to this. It runs about 90 minutes on November 13th. We haven't yet released that. If you find us on Eventbrite and you follow us on Eventbrite, you'll get notified of any upcoming events. Also, if you're in my mailing list, you'll get that. And of course, we've got the Flipping Masterclass, which is everybody's all over this one right now. Our Masterclass series are incredible. They're 2-day events. We pour into like so much. And now that we're kind of bottoming out in the market and starting to come back, flipping is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be able to get into. Just like what Michael was saying earlier, you're going to be able to find some great deals where these numbers are going to pencil out. So we want to make sure that we give everybody great information and share what they need to do in order to have successful flips. So here's a freebie for you. I told you I'm going to have a little guide to finding and choosing the right venture partner. So a couple of red flags. I think I got about 16 questions on here. What to ask your future JV partner or business partner to kind of vet them and feel them out. I'm going to show you where you can get that and find the link to the property tour and the other stuff right here. So if you scan this QR code, guys, you're going to get all the information there. It's a link to my link tree. The top, actually, I think it's the second bullet point is the freebie. You've got the property tour as the first bullet point. If you want information about that, it'll take you to the Eventbrite page. And again, don't forget to click follow on the Eventbrite page so you don't miss any upcoming events that we have. And then the second link is the freebie to the joint venture guide. So you definitely want to do that. And then there's some other stuff you can check out too if you want to connect with me on my socials and whatnot. So all the information you need is there. I want to open up the floor. Again, just want to be mindful for time here. I do want to open up the floor to everybody. If anybody's got any questions. Oh, wow, there's lots of stuff in here. Let's see. Let's see if there's any questions.
Everyone's bigging you up. Everyone's bigging you up. We're all
I'm
notes.
like,
yeah.
I didn't have when I reshared, I totally forgot to open up the chat box again. And I'm like, oh my God, where'd these come from? Okay, just want to make sure. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, yeah, Eve, you were in our master class. Good call there, Corey. Yeah, Eve was in our master. Which one was it? I think the land development master class. And yeah, she was killing it in there. Great student. Love that. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, I know that we're kind of running low on time here, but if anybody has any questions real quick, pop them in the thing or come off mute and ask the question. And then, yeah, and then if not, you can always DM me after the call for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely be sharing Danielle's contact information as well. We'll have the replay for this that's going out as well. And also everyone that opted in here as well, Danielle, you'll get the full the contact info so you can add them to your list and let them know about everything that you have going on. Right. Amazing. You really went in detail. For the time that I've known you, I could see how detailed you are, and I love it. When you really want information, I love when people really go in and break it all down for you. Then it just makes things simplistic and stuff like that. And that's what I get from you. Like you're really detailed. So everyone, please get in contact with Danielle. Go to her sessions. I went to one. It was amazing. And it was everyone's so open, everyone's so friendly, everyone's so engaging, and everybody wants you to win. And those are the type of environments that we need to be in. So yeah, and Danielle, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you as a guest in another session in one of our future sessions. All right, good stuff. And that's what we want to do with this, continue to build this platform. Jenny, you see how you just got that direct question direct to Danielle, and that's what we want to create, those spaces where, you just got over a hurdle, and thank you for expressing yourself. And on our future sessions as well, we've seen people who are in the room, right? If you have questions, like, feel free to get them out there, because, like, it could save you so much time and it could save you so much money. So this is the Invest for Cash Flow session. Danielle, thank you. Thank you to all of our speakers. We went 3 hours, consistent amount of people that were in there. We had about 20 to 30 people in here consistent, and it shows people really do care about this information. And if you love this session, look out for our next one. We're doing this monthly. We're going to do it monthly, to get people on board and continue to build with each other. So, I appreciate everyone tonight. Have a good night. God bless. Yes, thank you too, Jackie. Yes, thank you, everyone. All right, have a good night, everyone. Bye.